Hey guys! Tonight we will see why it sucks to be born as medieval assassin. Before that, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comment where you tuning from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who is joining us from around the world. Tonight, we journey back to the Middle Ages, not to the glittering halls of kings or the triumphant tales of fearless knights, but to the quiet corners of history where few people ever looked. There, beneath creaking timber houses, behind monastery walls, and along mist-covered streets lit only by flickering candles, another life unfolded. It was a life lived in silence, hidden from almost everyone. Imagine, if you will, that you were born into that world. Not as a prince wrapped in fine linen. Not as a wealthy merchant's child with a comfortable future. Not even as a humble farmer who could watch the seasons come and go. Instead, you open your eyes to a life that belongs to the shadows, a life where your greatest success is leaving no trace that you were ever there. At first, that might sound exciting. Modern stories often paint assassins as mysterious heroes with endless confidence, impressive skills, and dramatic adventures. But medieval reality was far less glamorous. It was colder, slower, lonelier, and filled with endless waiting. The truth is that surviving as a medieval assassin demanded extraordinary patience long before it demanded courage. So tonight, we will gently set those exciting legends aside. Instead, we will wander through quiet alleyways after the evening bells have fallen silent. We will cross muddy roads stretching between sleepy villages. We will warm ourselves beside crackling fireplaces inside crowded inns, listen to distant church bells rolling across misty valleys, and watch rain drip steadily from the roofs of ancient stone buildings. Along the way, you'll discover what everyday life may have felt like for someone trained to remain unnoticed in a world where almost nothing was comfortable. As always, this is a relaxing historical story inspired by what historians know about medieval life. Our main character is fictional, allowing us to explore the period through a single peaceful narrative, while many of the places, customs, daily routines, and challenges are drawn from real medieval history. The goal is not thrilling adventure but quiet immersion. So, dim the lights if you haven't already. Settle into your favorite chair, or pull the blanket a little closer if you're already tucked into bed. Let your breathing become slow and comfortable as the sounds of the modern world begin to fade away. There is no need to hurry anywhere tonight. Our journey begins on a cool autumn evening nearly 800 years ago, when smoke rises lazily from hundreds of chimneys, horses' hooves echo softly across uneven cobblestones, and a gentle rain begins to fall over a crowded medieval town. Somewhere within those narrow streets, a child is about to be born. And although that child cannot possibly know it yet, almost every choice that will shape their entire life has already been made. So close your eyes, if you wish, and let the rain carry us quietly into the shadows of the medieval world, where our story begins. Born into the shadows. A child without a choice. The rain continues to fall as we leave the warmth of our introduction behind and step fully into the medieval world. The narrow streets glisten beneath the soft light of scattered lanterns. Water trickles gently along shallow gutters cut into the uneven stone roads, carrying away bits of straw, fallen leaves, and the dust of another ordinary day. Somewhere nearby, a church bell rings one final time before silence settles over the town. This is where your story begins. Not in a magnificent castle surrounded by banners and cheering crowds. Not in the comfortable home of a wealthy merchant, where servants hurry from room to room and fresh bread cools upon polished wooden tables. Instead, you arrive in one of the countless small homes pressed tightly together along the edge of a busy medieval town. The building leans ever so slightly with age, its timber frame creaking whenever the wind slips through the narrow streets. Smoke curls lazily from a small chimney, carrying the earthy scent of burning oak into the cool autumn air. Inside, the room is simple. A rough wooden table stands near the hearth. A pair of stools have been repaired so many times that no two legs seem to match. Bundles of dried herbs hang from the ceiling beams, filling the air with the faint fragrance of rosemary, sage, and lavender. A single candle flickers beside the bed, its tiny flame dancing whenever a draft sneaks through the cracks in the wall. Here, on this quiet and rainy evening, you are born. For a brief moment, everything feels peaceful. Your mother smiles with exhausted relief while the village midwife wraps you carefully in soft linen. Your father watches silently from across the room, his face illuminated by the warm glow of the fire. He reaches out carefully, touching your tiny hand with one weathered finger. Outside, the rain continues its gentle rhythm upon the roof. It is almost enough to make one believe that your future will be ordinary. But medieval life rarely grants such certainty. In these centuries, most families live only a poor harvest away from hunger. Winters can stretch endlessly, bringing icy winds that creep beneath doors and frozen fields that refuse to yield food. Illness arrives without warning, and medicine offers little more than hope, herbs, and prayer. Every coin matters. Every loaf of bread matters. Every healthy child represents both another mouth to feed and another pair of hands that may someday help the family survive. Your parents understand these truths all too well. Your father earns a modest living repairing leather harnesses for travelers passing through town. Some weeks his work is steady. Other weeks no customers arrive at all. Your mother spins wool whenever she can, trading thread for flour, candles, or vegetables at the weekly market. Together they work from sunrise until darkness falls. Even then, there is rarely enough. As the weeks pass, the tiny bundle resting beside the fire grows stronger. You begin to notice light and shadow. The crackling fireplace becomes familiar. Gentle voices drift above you like distant music. You know nothing of poverty. You know nothing of worry. You simply sleep. Yet while you dream peacefully, the adults around you quietly calculate impossible choices. Can another child truly be fed through the coming winter? Will enough firewood remain? Will sickness visit the household before spring? These questions have no easy answers. One evening, as the first frost begins to silver the rooftops, someone knocks softly upon the door. The visitor does not look especially remarkable. He wears a plain wool cloak darkened by travel. Mud clings to his sturdy boots, and a leather satchel hangs comfortably across one shoulder. His beard is neatly trimmed, and his voice remains calm and polite throughout the conversation. To any passing neighbor, he appears to be nothing more than another traveler seeking shelter from the cold. But appearances often hide deeper stories. He speaks quietly with your father beside the dying fire while your mother rocks you gently near the window. No raised voices. No arguments. Only long pauses. Eventually, the visitor places a small leather pouch upon the table. The sound it makes is unmistakable. Coins. Not many. But enough to matter. Enough to buy grain. Enough to repair the leaking roof before winter deepens. Enough to keep a struggling family alive for several precious months. Your parents remain silent for what feels like an eternity. Outside, the wind brushes softly against the walls of the little house. Finally, your father lowers his head. Your mother closes her eyes. Neither speaks for several moments. History tells us that throughout the medieval world, children were sometimes sent away for many reasons. Some entered monasteries. Others became apprentices to craftsmen, merchants, or farmers. A fortunate few found opportunities that lifted them beyond the circumstances of their birth. Our story imagines another possibility, one wrapped in rumor more than certainty, where hidden organizations quietly searched for children who could be shaped into loyal servants of secrecy. Whether such guilds existed exactly as legends later described remains uncertain. But the fear of secret messengers, spies, hired killers, and hidden networks certainly haunted medieval imagination. And tonight, within our peaceful story, that old legend quietly comes to life. The visitor rises. He thanks your parent with a respectful bow. Then, with remarkable gentleness, he lifts you into his arms. You do not cry. You simply continue sleeping, wrapped safely against the cold beneath thick wool blankets. Your mother kisses your forehead one final time. Your father's hand rests briefly upon your tiny shoulder. Neither of them knows exactly where you are going. Only that somewhere beyond the crowded streets lies a future they can neither imagine nor prevent. The door opens. Cold night air drifts inside. The visitor steps quietly into the sleeping town. Behind him, the little house grows smaller with every careful footstep. Ahead stretches a winding road disappearing into darkness beyond the town gates. You, of course, remember none of this. Your earliest memories have yet to begin. But as the gentle rain slowly returns and the sound of distant church bells fades into the night, your journey toward a life lived in the shadows has already begun. And with the first light of tomorrow's dawn, you will arrive somewhere few people even know exists, a hidden refuge where your new life is about to unfold. Your new home beneath the city. Morning arrives slowly, almost reluctantly, as though the sun itself is in no hurry to disturb the quiet world you have entered. A pale golden light spreads across the countryside, softening the rolling hills beyond the town. Thin ribbons of mist drift lazily over damp meadows where sheep graze in silence. Tiny droplets of dew cling to every blade of grass, sparkling for only a few precious moments before the day's warmth gently carries them away. You, however, sleep through it all. Wrapped securely in thick wool blankets, you rest peacefully in the back of a small horse-drawn cart. The steady rhythm of wooden wheels rolling over uneven roads rocks you from one dream into another. Every bump is softened by layers of straw, and every creak of the cart blends with the cheerful songs of birds greeting the new day. The traveler who carried you from your family the evening before says very little. He is not unkind. Every so often he checks that your blankets remain tucked around your tiny shoulders, protecting you from the cool autumn breeze. He hums an old tune so quietly that it almost disappears beneath the sounds of horses walking along the muddy road. Hours pass without urgency. The medieval world moves at a slower pace than our own. There are no rushing carriages racing across smooth highways, no clocks demanding every minute be accounted for, and certainly no glowing screens competing for attention. Journeys are measured instead by the position of the sun, the ringing of distant church bells, and the changing colors of the sky. Eventually, the road leaves the open countryside. Stone walls begin to appear. Small workshops line the streets. A blacksmith's hammer rings steadily against glowing iron. Somewhere nearby, fresh bread is lifted from a baker's oven, filling the cool air with a warm, comforting aroma that briefly overpowers the scent of damp earth and wood smoke. The town is beginning another ordinary day. Merchants arrange their stalls. Children chase one another through narrow alleys. Women carry baskets filled with vegetables gathered from nearby gardens. Monks walk quietly toward morning prayers. To everyone you pass, the traveler is simply another man arriving with supplies or business to attend. No one gives him more than a passing glance. And that is exactly how he prefers it. Your destination is not marked upon any map. There are no signs pointing travelers toward it. Those who know of its existence speak little, if they speak at all. Instead of turning toward the busy marketplace, the cart enters one of the oldest districts of the town. Here, the buildings lean closer together. The streets grow narrower. Centuries of repairs have left walls patched with mismatched stones and weathered timber. Ivy climbs patiently across forgotten courtyards, while moss softens worn staircases that countless feet have climbed before. At the very end of a quiet alley stands what appears to be an abandoned storehouse. Its wooden door is faded by years of rain and sunlight. Several shutters hang crookedly. Dust coats the small windows. To an ordinary passerby, it looks forgotten. But appearances, as you will one day learn, often conceal the greatest secrets. The traveler lifts you carefully from the cart. His boots echo softly upon the wooden floor as he enters the silent building. Inside, very little can be seen. Broken barrels rest against one wall. Old ropes lie coiled neatly in the corner. A ladder reaches toward dusty rafters where pigeons quietly rustle their feathers. For a few moments, nothing happens. Then the traveler kneels beside what seems to be an ordinary stack of wooden crates. He moves one aside. Another follows. Beneath them lies a thick iron ring fixed into wide stone slabs. With practiced ease, he lifts the heavy stone door. Cool air rises from below. Not unpleasant. Simply cooler than the room above, carrying the faint scent of earth, old stone, beeswax candles, and dry timber. A narrow staircase disappears into the darkness. Step by careful step, the traveler descends. The only sounds are gentle footsteps and the quiet drip of water somewhere deep beneath the town. At the bottom, the darkness begins to soften. Candles burn inside iron lanterns fixed along smooth stone walls. Their warm glow reveals a surprisingly large underground passage. It is not luxurious, nor is it frightening. Instead, it feels practical. Safe. Deliberately hidden. Several wooden doors open into small rooms. Shelves are lined with carefully folded blankets, clay cups, bundles of herbs, and neatly arranged tools. Everything has its place. Nothing appears wasteful. Even underground, life follows an orderly rhythm. A woman wearing a simple grey dress smiles warmly as the traveler approaches. She cannot be much older than 30. Fine lines around her eyes suggest years spent watching over children rather than commanding soldiers. Without speaking loudly, she reaches out and gently takes you into her arms. "There is another little one," she says softly. Her voice is calm enough to soothe even the most restless child. She carries you into a quiet chamber where several wooden cradles stand beside one another. Each cradle has been carefully carved by hand. Each contains a sleeping child. Some are only a few months older than you. Others have just begun sitting upright, curiously observing the room around them. No one cries for long. Whenever tears begin, someone gently comforts them. The room smells faintly of warm milk, lavender, clean straw, and beeswax candles. It is peaceful. Far more peaceful than one might expect from a place hidden beneath a medieval town. Days gradually blend into one another. Although you are far too young to remember them, your life settles into gentle routines. You wake. You are fed. You sleep. You listen to soft voices telling simple stories. You watch candlelight dance across stone ceilings. The seasons change somewhere above your head. Rain falls. Snow comes and goes. Spring returns. Occasionally, older children pass quietly through the nursery. They move with unusual care, speaking politely and helping the younger ones carry wooden bowls or fold blankets after meals. No one shouts. No one runs wildly through the halls. Patience is encouraged long before lessons ever begin. As the months become years, you slowly start noticing the world around you. The underground refuge is larger than it first appeared. There is a modest kitchen where bread is baked every morning. A peaceful library filled with handwritten books copied carefully by candlelight. A training courtyard open to the sky through a cleverly hidden stone opening, allowing sunlight, rain, and fresh air to reach those below. A workshop where leather boots are repaired and simple clothing is stitched by careful hands. It is less like a fortress, and more like a quiet village hidden beneath another village. No one here speaks openly about the outside world. No one mentions your parents. No one asks where any child came from. Instead, everyone shares the same simple understanding. This is home now. The questions can wait until you are old enough to ask them. For now, there is only another peaceful evening settling over the hidden refuge. Candles flicker gently along the stone corridors. A pot of vegetable stew simmers quietly in the kitchen. Somewhere in the distance, someone begins playing a soft melody on a wooden flute, the notes drifting gently through the underground halls like a warm breeze. You yawn. Your eyes grow heavy. Curled beneath thick wool blankets inside your small wooden cradle, you slowly drift towards sleep once more. Above you, the busy medieval town prepares for another ordinary night, completely unaware that beneath its ancient streets, a group of children is quietly growing up in secret. Among them is one small child whose lessons have not yet begun. But before long, you will take your very first steps, speak your very first words, and discover that in this hidden place, every movement, every sound, and every moment of patience is the beginning of an education unlike any other. Learning to become invisible. Dash! The quiet melody of the wooden flute fades gently into the distance, and with it, another peaceful day beneath the medieval town comes to an end. Time has a curious way of passing in hidden places. Days become weeks. Weeks quietly become seasons. The tiny child who once slept through the gentle rocking of a wooden cart has grown stronger. Your first uncertain steps have long since become confident ones. Your first words have filled the underground halls with soft curiosity, and now, several years have slipped by almost unnoticed. You are still very young. Far too young to understand why your home lies beneath old stone streets instead of beneath the open sky. Yet children are wonderfully adaptable. The underground refuge no longer feels unusual. To you, it is simply home. Every familiar sound has become part of your world. You recognize the slow creak of heavy wooden doors opening each morning. You know the comforting smell of fresh barley porridge drifting from the kitchen before sunrise. You can tell which caretaker is walking down the corridor simply by the rhythm of their footsteps. And every evening, as candles are carefully lit one by one, warm golden light paints gentle shadows across the ancient stone walls. Life here follows quiet routines. The routines rarely change. Perhaps that is why they feel so comforting. Long before dawn, while the town above still sleeps beneath blankets of darkness, someone gently rings a small bronze bell. Its sound is soft, not loud enough to startle anyone awake. Instead, it drifts calmly through the corridors, inviting rather than demanding. One by one, children begin opening sleepy eyes. Blankets are folded neatly. Simple wool tunics are slipped over small shoulders. Leather shoes, carefully repaired many times before, are tied with practiced fingers. No one rushes. There is no shouting. The morning belongs to silence. You quickly learn that the first lesson of every day begins before any teacher speaks a single word. Move quietly. Respect those who are still waking. Leave every sleeping space tidier than you found it. Small habits, repeated every day, slowly become part of who you are. After washing your face in cool water drawn from a deep underground spring, you join the others inside the dining hall. Breakfast is modest. A bowl of warm barley porridge. A slice of dark rye bread. Occasionally, a little honey if the nearby beekeepers have enjoyed a successful season. Sometimes dried apples appear during autumn. Sometimes fresh herbs are stirred gently into the porridge during spring. No one complains about the menu. Food is too valuable for complaints. Indeed, throughout much of medieval Europe, ordinary people rarely enjoyed extravagant meals. Most families depended upon grains, vegetables, and whatever the changing seasons could provide. Meat was far less common than many modern people imagine, often reserved for celebrations or fortunate occasions. Your teachers remind you of this often. Be thankful, an elderly caretaker says with a warm smile. An empty bowl teaches nothing. The children nod politely. Even at your young age, gratitude is becoming another daily habit. Once breakfast is finished, wooden bowls are washed carefully before being placed neatly upon shelves. Again, no one hurries. There always seems to be enough time. The underground refuge values patience above speed. Only after the morning meal does your first lesson truly begin. An older instructor waits beside a wide wooden doorway leading toward the open training courtyard. His hair has turned almost completely silver. His hands bear countless tiny scars collected over many decades. Yet his eyes remain remarkably gentle. He rarely raises his voice. He has no need to. Children naturally grow quiet whenever he enters the room. Without speaking, he walks into the courtyard. The students follow. Above, the hidden opening in the ceiling allows the first pale rays of sunrise to filter softly into the enclosed space. Golden light stretches slowly across damp flagstones. Tiny birds perch along the edge of the opening, singing cheerful morning songs, completely unaware that a secret school exists beneath their feet. The instructor waits until everyone has gathered. Only then does he speak. Look. Nothing more. Simply. Look. At first, the children glance around uncertainly. Some study the walls. Others examine the sky. One little boy stares curiously at a sparrow balancing upon a loose stone. Minutes pass. No further instructions arrive. Eventually, one girl quietly raises her hand. The bird has flown away, she whispers. The instructor smiles. Yes. Another child notices dew sparkling upon climbing ivy reaching toward the sunlight. Another points out that the morning breeze carries the scent of rain. Someone else hears distant church bells from above. One by one, the children begin discovering details they had overlooked only moments earlier. Only then does the old teacher nod with quiet satisfaction. You cannot move unnoticed. He pauses. Until you first notice everything around you. It is perhaps the simplest lesson you will ever receive. Yet it may also become the most important. The morning continues with gentle exercises unlike anything a knight would recognize. There are no heavy swords. No charging horses. No loud battle cries. Instead, you practice walking slowly across smooth wooden beams laid only a few inches above the ground. Not because falling would hurt, but because balance teaches careful movement. Later, you carry small bowls filled almost to the brim with water. Your task is wonderfully ordinary. Walk from one side of the courtyard to the other. Return again. Spill as little water as possible. The younger children wobble cheerfully. A few giggle when water splashes onto their boots. Even the instructors cannot entirely hide their smiles. Learning, they believe, should not always feel difficult. Sometimes the quietest lessons remain longest in memory. As the years pass, the exercises gradually become more challenging. Walk across fallen autumn leaves without making them rustle. Step over loose stones without disturbing them. Open an old wooden gate slowly enough that its rusty hinges never squeak. Listen for the difference between rain falling upon stone roofs and rain falling upon wooden shingles. Notice which floorboards creak. Notice which doors stick during damp weather. Notice how shadows change as clouds drift across the sun. These are not merely games. They are lessons in observation. An observation, your teachers often remind you, is the beginning of wisdom. By late morning, the sunlight has climbed higher above the hidden courtyard. Warmth reaches even the deepest corners. Lessons pause briefly while everyone gathers beneath a broad oak tree growing through the open shaft toward the sky above. Its roots twist gently through ancient stone, somehow thriving despite the unusual surroundings. The children sit quietly beneath its branches, drinking cool spring water from clay cups. No one speaks much. Not because conversation is forbidden. Simply because silence has become comfortable. You begin discovering something curious. Silence is not empty. It is filled with birdsong, with distant bells, with rustling leaves, with the crackling of sunlight warming old timber, with your own slow breathing. Many years from now, long after your childhood has disappeared into memory, you may find yourself remembering mornings like these far more vividly than any difficult lesson. Because although your education will eventually prepare you for secrecy, patience, and quiet responsibility, for now, it is still simply a group of children welcoming another peaceful sunrise together beneath an ancient medieval town. And as the afternoon approaches, your teachers are about to introduce a lesson even more difficult than careful footsteps. They are going to teach you how to wait. The art of waiting. The old instructor's final words linger gently in the morning air. They are going to teach you how to wait. At first, those words seem rather ordinary. After all, children spend much of their lives waiting. Waiting for meals to be served, for stories to begin, for winter to give way to spring, or for sleep to arrive after a long day. Surely, you think, waiting cannot be very difficult. But as the weeks quietly unfold, you discover that the teachers beneath the old town mean something quite different. Their version of waiting is not simply passing time. It is learning to become completely comfortable with it. The afternoon lessons begin after a modest meal of vegetable stew, coarse bread, and a few slices of soft white cheese shared among the children. As always, nothing is wasted. Even the smallest crumbs are gathered for the chickens kept in a tiny courtyard above ground. Once the bowls have been washed and carefully returned to their shelves, the children gather in the training hall once again. The silver-haired instructor enters carrying something rather unexpected. Not a weapon. Not a scroll. Just a small clay candle holder. He places it carefully in the center of the room and lights the candle. Its tiny flame flickers gently, casting warm light across the smooth stone floor. Then he sits down. The children wait for instructions. None come. The room grows wonderfully still. The only sounds are the soft crackle of the candle and the distant drip of water echoing somewhere beneath the earth. Several minutes pass. One boy shifts uncomfortably. Another scratches his nose. A little girl begins watching the dancing flame with great concentration. Finally, the instructor smiles. What did you notice? The answers arrive one by one. The flame leaned whenever a breeze came through. I heard someone baking bread. There are pigeons above us. I counted the drops of water. The old man nods. You were waiting. He pauses, allowing the sentence to settle. But your minds were awake. That, he explains, is the difference. Many people grow impatient while they wait. They complain. They become distracted. They stop noticing the world around them. An observant person does the opposite. Every quiet moment becomes another opportunity to learn. From that day forward, waiting becomes part of nearly every lesson. Sometimes the children sit beside the hidden courtyard for an entire hour, simply watching clouds drift across the opening high above. The clouds move far more slowly than anyone first imagines. Large white shapes gradually become thin wisps before disappearing beyond the rooftops of the town. Other afternoons are spent listening. The instructors ring different bells hidden throughout the refuge. Each produces its own gentle voice. One sounds bright and cheerful. Another rings deeper and lower. One has a tiny crack that causes it to buzz softly after every strike. Without opening your eyes, you slowly learn to recognize each one. Elsewhere, another lesson quietly unfolds. Pairs of children are asked to watch the entrance to a narrow corridor. Nothing exciting happens. People simply pass by. A cook carrying fresh vegetables. An elderly caretaker sweeping the floor. A young apprentice returning books to the library. After an hour, the instructor asks simple questions. Who walked through first? What color were the cook's sleeves? Which hand carried the basket? Some children remember only fragments. Others surprise themselves by recalling remarkable details. The exercise is never about perfection. It is about paying attention. As autumn gradually gives way to winter, the lessons continue changing with the seasons. One cold morning, fresh snow blankets the town above. The hidden courtyard becomes unusually quiet. Snow has a remarkable way of softening the world. Even the birds seem to sing more gently. The children are invited outside one by one. Each receives an unusual challenge. Walk across the snow. Then return by the same path. Nothing more. When everyone gathers again, the instructor points toward the footprints. Every step tells a story. Some prints are deep, showing hurried movement. Others wander uncertainly. A few reveal careful balance. Without saying so directly, he reminds the children that every movement leaves some kind of mark behind. Sometimes upon the ground. Sometimes upon another person's memory. Sometimes only upon ourselves. Winter evenings become especially peaceful beneath the refuge. The thick stone walls keep out the worst of the icy wind. Candles glow warmly along the corridors. A large fire burns steadily inside the kitchen hearth, where pots of soup bubble gently throughout the evening. After supper, the youngest children gather around one of the caretakers, who enjoys reading from beautifully handwritten manuscripts. The stories are not always about kings or great battles. Many tell of travelers crossing mountains, pilgrims visiting distant monasteries, farmers patiently waiting for spring after difficult winters, fishermen watching quiet rivers beneath moonlit skies. Each tale carries the same gentle lesson. Patience often accomplishes what haste never can. You begin noticing this lesson everywhere. The baker waits for dough to rise. The blacksmith waits for iron to glow. The gardener waits for seeds to become flowers. Even the monks above the town patiently copy books one careful letter at a time. The entire medieval world seems to move according to rhythms far slower than those of the modern age. Perhaps that is why your teachers believe patience is such a valuable companion. Months quietly become another year. You are growing taller now. Your steps have become steadier. Your eyes notice details that... A life of endless practice. The marketplace of 1,000 stories. The evening bells fade into the distance, their final notes lingering softly above the rooftops before disappearing into the cool spring air. Beneath the old town, the hidden refuge grows quiet. Candles are carefully extinguished one by one. Wooden doors close with gentle creaks. Children settle beneath warm wool blankets while the comforting scent of burning oak drifts slowly through the stone corridors. Before long, silence returns. Only the occasional crackle of the kitchen fire and the distant dripping of underground water remain awake. You sleep peacefully. When morning comes, it arrives with the same gentle bronze bell that has greeted every day of your childhood. Its familiar tone drifts through the refuge like a quiet invitation. Another day has begun. By now, the morning routine feels as natural as breathing. You fold your blanket carefully. Wash your face with cool spring water. Share a simple breakfast of barley porridge, dark bread, and warm goat's milk. Nothing is hurried. Nothing feels rushed. The silver-haired instructor often reminds everyone that the way a person begins the morning quietly shapes the rest of the day. Perhaps he is right. After breakfast, however, something feels different. Instead of leading the children toward the familiar training courtyard, the instructors gather everyone near the main entrance beneath the abandoned storehouse. Several older students are already waiting there, each wearing simple gray cloaks that hide their clothing beneath. One by one, the younger children receive similar cloaks. They are plain, unremarkable. Exactly the sort of clothing worn by ordinary apprentices throughout countless medieval towns. The instructor smiles. Today, he says softly, your classroom is somewhere else. For the first time that you can truly remember, the great stone door opens while you stand beside it. Cool morning air flows gently into the passage. Sunlight pours down the staircase, brighter than any candle below. The children blink for a moment as their eyes adjust. Then, quietly and without excitement, everyone follows the instructors upward. The old storehouse appears exactly as it always has. Dust still rests upon forgotten barrels. The faded shutters remain crooked. Nothing about the building suggests that an entire hidden community lives beneath its floor. Outside, the medieval town has fully awakened. What a remarkable place it is. Narrow streets twist between timber-framed houses whose upper floors lean so closely together that neighbors could almost shake hands from opposite windows. Fresh bread cools outside the bakery. The sweet smell drifts lazily through the morning breeze. Nearby, a blacksmith's hammer rings with steady rhythm against glowing iron. Somewhere farther away, chickens announce themselves with enthusiastic determination, as though each believes it has personally welcomed the sunrise. You have imagined this world many times while listening to stories underground. Seeing it with your own eyes feels strangely peaceful. People move at an unhurried pace. A farmer guides a patient donkey pulling a small cart filled with vegetables. Children laugh as they carry buckets toward the town well. A woman sweeps yesterday's dust from the front of her little shop. An elderly man pauses to greet nearly everyone he passes. Life unfolds without spectacle, without urgency. Simply one ordinary morning following another. The instructors lead the children through several winding streets before arriving at the marketplace. It is already becoming busy. Wooden stalls stand neatly arranged beneath colorful cloth awnings. Bundles of onions hang beside baskets overflowing with carrots, cabbages, and turnips. Clay pots are stacked carefully outside a potter's stall. A fisherman arranges his morning catch upon fresh reeds while calling cheerful greetings to familiar customers. Nearby, bolts of dyed wool ripple gently whenever the breeze wanders through the square. Everything seems alive. Not because anyone is rushing, but because everyone has their own small purpose. The children gather quietly beneath the shade of an old lime tree growing near the edge of the square. The silver-haired instructor kneels so everyone can hear him without raising his voice. Today, he whispers, you will not practice walking. The children listen carefully. You will practice seeing. He points toward the marketplace. Choose one person. Watch. And learn their story. Several puzzled faces glance back at him. their story?" one little girl asks. The old man smiles kindly. "You need not know whether your story is correct. You only need to notice enough to imagine it." The lesson begins. You choose an elderly baker arranging round loaves upon a wooden table. At first, he seems entirely ordinary. But as the minutes quietly pass, details begin revealing themselves. His left shoulder sits slightly lower than his right. Perhaps years of carrying heavy sacks of flour have slowly shaped his posture. He greets every customer by name. That suggests he has lived here for many years. His apron bears fresh white flour, meaning the bread was likely baked before sunrise. A tiny wooden whistle hangs around his neck. Maybe it once belonged to one of his children. Maybe now it belongs to a grandchild. You cannot know for certain. But you have begun noticing. Nearby, another child watches a young woman selling flowers. She notices that the woman smiles warmly at elderly customers but blushes slightly whenever the blacksmith walks past. Across the square, someone else observes a merchant carefully counting every coin twice before placing it inside a leather pouch. Each child quietly discovers a different story. After nearly an hour, the instructor gathers everyone together beneath the tree. No answer is called right or wrong. Instead, he asks gentle questions. What made you think that? What did you notice first? What did you almost overlook? The discussion is calm. Thoughtful. There is no competition. Only curiosity. The instructor finally folds his hands inside his sleeves. People speak, he says. But before they ever speak, they have already told you many things. He gestures toward the marketplace once more. The way they walk. The way they carry baskets. The way they greet neighbors. The way they pause before choosing bread. All of these are small stories. And the world is full of them. The children fall silent again. Not because there is nothing left to say, but because suddenly there seems almost too much to notice. The marketplace no longer feels crowded. Instead, it feels like a great collection of quiet lives unfolding side by side. Every face belongs to someone with hopes, responsibilities, families waiting at home, fields needing attention, bread needing to be baked before dawn. For the first time, you begin understanding that observation is not merely about seeing details. It is about appreciating the ordinary rhythm of other people's lives. The lesson continues until the church bell announces midday. As merchants begin welcoming larger crowds and the square grows busier, the instructors quietly gather the children. Without drawing attention, everyone slips gently back through the winding streets toward the forgotten storehouse. The heavy stone door closes once more behind you. Cool underground air replaces the warmth of the spring sunshine. The hidden refuge feels just as peaceful as when you left it. Yet something inside you has quietly changed. The town above no longer seems like a distant mystery. It has become a place filled with countless ordinary people living ordinary days. And tomorrow, your teachers will show you that even the smallest habits, a favorite pathway, a familiar greeting, or the time someone opens a shop each morning can reveal far more than most people ever imagine. That lesson, too, begins with patience. The quiet rhythm of ordinary lives. The heavy stone door settles gently back into its place, hiding the entrance to the underground refuge as completely as if it had never been opened at all. Above, the marketplace continues with its busy afternoon. Merchants bargain over cloth. Children laugh beside the town well. The baker sells the last of his warm loaves. Life carries on without ever realizing that a small group of quiet observers has already come and gone. Below, the air is pleasantly cool. The familiar scent of beeswax candles, fresh bread, and old stone welcomes you home once again. There is something comforting about returning to a place where every hallway feels familiar and every corner holds quiet memories. The children hang their grey cloaks neatly upon wooden pegs before gathering in the dining hall for the midday meal. Today's lunch is simple, as it almost always is. A thick vegetable pottage made with onions, carrots, barley, and leeks simmers gently inside a large iron pot. Each child receives a wooden bowl, a slice of coarse rye bread, and a small piece of soft cheese. Fresh water is poured from heavy clay jugs that have kept it pleasantly cool throughout the morning. The meal is quiet. Not silent, but peaceful. Soft conversations drift from one end of the table to the other. One child mentions the colorful ribbons hanging from a cloth merchant's stall. Another wonders how many loaves the baker must prepare before sunrise each morning. Someone else cannot stop thinking about the old woman who spent nearly half an hour choosing only 3 onions, carefully turning each one over before placing it into her basket. The silver-haired instructor listens without interrupting. When everyone has finished eating, he smiles warmly. "You noticed?" The children nod. "Good." He pauses for a moment before adding something unexpected. "But tomorrow, try noticing what stays the same." The words seem rather puzzling. Most children naturally pay attention to things that change. Bright colors, loud sounds, unexpected events. Very few notice the quiet routines that repeat themselves day after day. Yet those ordinary patterns, your teachers explain, often reveal the most. The following morning, after breakfast and the familiar ringing of the bronze bell, the children once again climb the hidden staircase into the waking town. Spring has settled comfortably across the countryside. The morning air feels fresh without being cold. Swallows dart gracefully between rooftops, chasing tiny insects that dance in the sunlight. Somewhere nearby, a church bell welcomes another ordinary day. The instructors lead everyone back toward the same marketplace. At first glance, nothing appears different. The same wooden stalls stand in the same places. The same baker arranges warm bread upon his table. The same flower seller carefully fills clay jars with fresh water before displaying her colorful bouquets. The same blacksmith wipes soot from his hands before opening his workshop. The silver-haired instructor gathers the children beneath the old lime tree once again. This time, he says quietly, "Forget the people." Several children look surprised. Watch their routines instead. You begin observing the marketplace with fresh eyes. The baker unlocks his shop shortly after the church bell rings. Not before. Not much later. Almost exactly the same moment each morning. A shepherd arrives with fresh cheese while the morning shadows still stretch across the square. A monk passes through every day carrying a basket of herbs toward the monastery kitchen. The town guard pauses briefly at the fountain before continuing his slow walk around the marketplace. Even the pigeons seem to prefer the same sunny corner of the square once the morning grows warmer. None of these things are exciting. And yet, together they create a gentle rhythm that feels almost musical. The instructor walks quietly among the children. The world, he whispers, loves familiar habits. He watches an elderly merchant sweeping dust away from the entrance to his little shop. He has done that every morning for many years. He gestures toward the fountain. The children always arrive after breakfast. He smiles as 2 dogs trot happily behind the butcher's cart. They know exactly when scraps will appear. The children begin smiling too. Once you start looking for routines, they seem to be everywhere. Even the clouds appear to follow gentle patterns as they drift slowly across the spring sky. Hours pass almost unnoticed. No one becomes bored. Instead, the marketplace begins feeling strangely comforting. You realize that people often find happiness in ordinary routines. The baker enjoys greeting familiar customers. The gardener smiles while arranging flowers exactly the same way each morning. Neighbors stop to exchange cheerful words beside the well. Children invent the same games in the same corners of the square. The world above the hidden refuge is not only filled with work. It is filled with quiet traditions repeated every day. As the afternoon approaches, the instructors guide everyone toward a small stone bridge crossing a narrow stream just beyond the town walls. Here, the water moves gently over smooth rocks, making a soft, peaceful sound. Wildflowers sway beside the banks. Dragonflies hover above the clear water, their delicate wings shining brightly in the sunlight. The children sit beneath several willow trees whose long branches brush the surface of the stream. No lessons are given immediately. Instead, everyone simply listens. Water flowing. Birds singing. Leaves rustling overhead. The instructor finally breaks the silence. Tell me, what changed while we sat here? The children think carefully. One notices that the sunlight has reached the opposite bank. Another sees a family of ducks swimming downstream. Someone else points out that a fisherman quietly arrived without anyone noticing. The instructor nods. And what stayed the same? This question takes longer. Finally, one child smiles. The stream. It kept flowing. Another says softly. The willow branches never stopped moving. A third notices. The birds kept singing. The old teacher looks pleased. The world changes. He watches the water drift steadily beneath the bridge. But many beautiful things continue quietly whether we notice them or not. The afternoon breeze stirs gently through the willow leaves. For several peaceful minutes, nobody speaks. There is no need. The moment itself feels complete. You begin understanding something your teachers have been trying to show you ever since your lessons began. Observation is not only about discovering hidden things. It is also about appreciating ordinary things. A loaf of bread cooling upon a windowsill. A gardener watering herbs before sunrise. A mother holding her child's hand while crossing the marketplace. A swallow building the same nest beneath the same roof each spring. These simple moments form the quiet heartbeat of medieval life. As the sun begins sinking toward the western hills, long golden shadows stretch across the countryside. The children slowly make their way back toward the hidden refuge. The streets grow calmer. Shopkeepers close wooden shutters. Smoke rises gently from chimneys as evening meals begin cooking throughout the town. The comforting smell of soup, fresh bread, and burning firewood drifts lazily through the cooling air. Back beneath the old storehouse, candles are lit once again. Supper is served. Blankets are folded. Books are quietly returned to their shelves. Everything follows the familiar rhythm that has become the foundation of your childhood. Later that evening, after the younger children have gone to bed, the silver-haired instructor walks slowly through the library. You happen to be there, carefully returning a handwritten manuscript to its place. He notices your thoughtful expression. You are wondering something, he says gently. You hesitate before asking. Will we always spend our days simply watching people? The old man smiles, his eyes reflecting the warm glow of nearby candlelight. No. He shakes his head. Watching teaches understanding. Understanding teaches wisdom. And wisdom. He pauses, as he often does, allowing the silence to become part of the lesson. Teaches kindness. The answer surprises you. Kindness. It is not the word you expected. the instructor places another manuscript carefully upon the shelf. If you truly understand another person's ordinary life, it becomes much harder to forget that they are human. His footsteps echo softly as he leaves the library. You remain standing beside the old books for several moments, listening to the peaceful silence settle around you once again. Tomorrow, your lessons will gently begin to change. You will spend less time observing the routines of others, and more time discovering the quiet discipline hidden within your own. For before anyone can understand the wider world, they must first learn to understand themselves. Your first real assignment: the quiet discipline within. The silver-haired instructor's footsteps gradually fade along the candlelit corridor. For a little while longer, you remain standing inside the small library, surrounded by shelves of carefully copied manuscripts. The room is wonderfully still. The scent of old parchment mingles with beeswax candles and polished oak, creating a warmth that feels comforting after another long day. His final words continue to echo quietly in your thoughts. Before anyone can understand the wider world, they must first learn to understand themselves. At first, the lesson seems mysterious. You know how to notice birds settling upon rooftops. You know how to watch a marketplace awaken with the sunrise. You know the familiar routines of bakers, blacksmiths, gardeners, and monks. But how, you wonder, does someone observe themselves? The answer begins arriving the very next morning. As always, the gentle bronze bell welcomes the new day before the first hint of dawn appears above the town. Its soft voice flows through the underground refuge like a quiet stream. You wake naturally now. The bell no longer startles you. Instead, it feels almost like an old friend. After folding your blanket and washing with cool spring water, you join the others for breakfast. Barley porridge simmers gently inside a large iron pot. Fresh rye bread rests in woven baskets. A little honey has been added today, perhaps a reward for the arrival of late spring. The children smile quietly. Even small surprises feel generous in a place where nothing is taken for granted. When breakfast ends, the silver-haired instructor gathers everyone in the familiar courtyard beneath the great oak tree. Morning sunlight filters gently through its fresh green leaves. Tiny birds dart from branch to branch, singing cheerful songs that seem to belong entirely to the season. The instructor waits until everyone has settled. Then, without speaking, he kneels beside a shallow wooden bowl filled with perfectly still water. The children watch curiously. He gestures for everyone to look inside. Each child sees the same thing: their own reflection. The surface is so calm that every face appears almost perfectly clear. Finally, the instructor breaks the silence. "What do you see?" One little boy laughs. "My hair is untidy." Another child notices a small scratch upon her cheek from climbing a tree the day before. Someone smiles because their nose appears strangely round in the reflection. The old teacher nods kindly at every answer. Then he gently touches the surface of the water with one finger. Ripples spread slowly across the bowl. The reflections disappear. Faces become blurred. I stretch into strange shapes before dissolving completely. What changed? The water moved, someone answers. The instructor smiles. Yes. And because the water could no longer remain still, it could no longer show the truth, the children become very quiet. He lets the lesson settle naturally. Our thoughts, he says softly, are often like water. When they become restless, we stop seeing clearly. It is a surprisingly peaceful lesson. No one mentions secrets. No one speaks of danger. Instead, everyone simply spends several minutes watching the ripples slowly disappear. Eventually, the surface becomes perfectly calm once again. Every reflection returns. From that morning onward, a new routine quietly becomes part of daily life. Before each lesson begins, the children spend a few peaceful moments sitting quietly beneath the oak tree. No one speaks. No one fidgets. They simply breathe slowly while listening to the world around them. At first, remaining completely still feels strangely difficult. Your mind wanders. You think about breakfast, about birds, about yesterday's stories, about tomorrow. But gradually, something changes. The longer you sit quietly, the more you notice. The breeze feels cooler than before. The leaves create countless tiny patterns as sunlight filters through them. Some birds sing in short, cheerful bursts. Others answer from much farther away. The world has not changed. Only your attention has. The silver-haired instructor seems pleased. Most people believe silence is empty, he says one morning. They hurry to fill every quiet moment. He smiles toward the children. But silence is often where the best answers patiently wait. The following weeks continue with similarly gentle lessons. One afternoon, each child receives a small leather pouch. Inside rests nothing more than 3 smooth river stones. The task seems almost amusing. Carry them with you throughout the day. Do not lose them. Do not make them rattle. Do not think about them constantly. Simply remain aware that they are there. The exercise sounds wonderfully simple. Until you try it. While walking, one stone clicks softly against another. While sitting, the pouch shifts unexpectedly. Several children forget entirely until an instructor quietly asks, "Where are your stones?" The lesson slowly becomes clear. Awareness is different from worry. You need not think about something every second. But you should never become completely unaware of it. Another day, the instructors ask everyone to perform ordinary tasks using only their non-dominant hand. Pour water. Tie leather laces. Arrange books upon shelves. Almost immediately, everything feels slower. Awkward. Clumsy. The children laugh as cups wobble and knots refuse to cooperate. Even the instructors smile. There is no shame in difficulty, the silver-haired teacher says warmly. Difficulty reminds us to remain patient. Weeks quietly become months. Summer settles gently over the medieval town. Above ground, fields ripple with tall grain dancing beneath warm breezes. Fruit trees begin filling with green apples and pears. Wildflowers brighten the roads leading toward nearby villages. The underground refuge feels pleasantly cool during the hottest afternoons. Stone walls protect everyone from the strongest summer heat. Life follows its familiar rhythm. Morning lessons. Shared meals. Quiet evenings. Stories beside the fire. Books copied carefully by candlelight. Nothing dramatic happens. And yet, everything is changing. Without realizing it, you have become calmer. Your footsteps grow lighter. Your breathing slows naturally whenever you begin concentrating. You notice when your thoughts become distracted and gently guide them back again. The lessons no longer feel like lessons. They have simply become habits. One peaceful evening, after supper has ended, the silver-haired instructor invites several older students to accompany him above ground. Including you. The town is unusually quiet. The day's work has finished. Families gather around evening meals. Open windows allow the comforting smell of roasting onions, fresh bread, and wood smoke to drift into the narrow streets. The instructor leads everyone toward a small square where an ancient fountain trickles softly beneath the fading light. He says nothing. Instead, everyone simply sits together upon the smooth stone edge of the fountain. The evening sky slowly changes from bright blue to gentle shades of gold and rose. Swallows circle overhead before returning to their nests. Somewhere nearby, a woman sings softly while hanging freshly washed linen outside her home. Church bells mark the end of another ordinary day. After several peaceful minutes, the instructor finally speaks. "Tell me, what is the busiest thing here?" The children glance around. A horse pulling a cart. Several neighbors talking beside the well. A baker closing his shop. Finally, one student quietly answers. "The fountain." The old teacher smiles. It never stops moving. He looks toward the flowing water. And yet, listen carefully. Everyone falls silent. Despite its endless movement, the fountain sounds wonderfully peaceful. The water never rushes. It simply continues. Steady, patient, unhurried. The instructor nods gently. That is the discipline you are learning. Not to become motionless, but to remain calm while life continues around you. Darkness slowly settles across the medieval town. Lanterns begin glowing warmly behind wooden windows. Stars appear one by one above the rooftops. As you quietly make your way back toward the hidden refuge beneath the old storehouse, you feel no excitement about tomorrow. No anxiety. Only quiet curiosity. Because tomorrow, for the very first time since your childhood began beneath these ancient streets, your teachers will decide that you are finally ready to leave the safety of lessons behind. Not for danger. Not yet. But for something much simpler. A small task. An ordinary responsibility. The first gentle step toward proving that patience, observation, and quiet discipline can be trusted beyond the walls of your hidden home. And like every lesson before it, it will begin with the rising of another peaceful dawn. A walk through an ordinary day. Another peaceful dawn arrives over the medieval town. The bronze bell rings softly beneath the hidden refuge, just as it has every morning for years. Its gentle voice drifts through the stone corridors, inviting the children to greet another day without haste. You wake before the second note has faded. Not because you are eager. Not because you are anxious. Simply because the quiet rhythm of the refuge has become part of you. You fold your blanket carefully, wash your face in the cool spring water, and join the others for breakfast. Today the meal is familiar warm barley porridge, a slice of rye bread still carrying the pleasant aroma of the oven, and a small cup of fresh goat's milk. The dining hall feels especially peaceful. Perhaps it is the soft morning light filtering through the hidden opening above the courtyard. Perhaps it is simply another ordinary day. Yet the silver-haired instructor seems thoughtful. After everyone finishes eating, he places his hands behind his back and looks around the room with the same gentle expression he has worn since you first met him as a child. This morning, he says quietly, one of you will leave the refuge alone. No one speaks. There is no excitement. No nervous whispering. Only attentive silence. Then his eyes meet yours. You are ready. The words are spoken so calmly that they almost sound like an observation rather than an announcement. You rise without haste. The instructor smiles. Come with me. The familiar staircase leads upward into the abandoned storehouse. Morning sunlight slips through the crooked shutters, filling the dusty room with narrow beams of gold. Tiny specks of dust drift lazily through the light, moving so slowly that they seem almost suspended in time. Outside, the town is just beginning to awaken. A baker carries warm loaves toward his stall. A woman opens the shutters of her little weaving shop. A pair of children chase each other across the square, laughing until their mother gently reminds them not to disturb the neighbors. The instructor begins walking. You follow beside him. Neither of you speaks for several streets. Instead, you simply listen. Wooden cartwheels rolling over uneven stones. The cheerful call of swallows circling overhead. A blacksmith striking iron with slow, steady rhythm. The distant ringing of a monastery bell welcoming another peaceful morning. Eventually, the instructor stops beside a narrow lane overlooking the marketplace. He points toward a familiar figure. It is the elderly baker you observed many months ago. His shoulders remain slightly uneven from years of lifting heavy sacks of flour. His flour-covered apron looks much the same as always. Even the little wooden whistle still hangs around his neck. The instructor smiles. Your assignment is simple. He pauses. So simple that many people would overlook it. You wait quietly. Follow the baker until he closes his shop this afternoon. You nod. No conversation. No interference. No shortcuts. Simply observe. He glances toward the busy square. Then return home. Home. You notice that he still calls the hidden refuge home. Somehow, hearing the word makes the assignment feel less daunting. The instructor leaves without another word. Within moments, he disappears into the ordinary flow of townspeople until even you can no longer distinguish him from the crowd. For the first time in your life, you stand alone. The feeling is unfamiliar, not frightening, simply new. Taking a slow breath, you begin walking. The baker moves through the marketplace exactly as he always does. He greets the flour seller with a cheerful nod. He exchanges a few friendly words with the cheesemaker. A little boy arrives carrying a basket of fresh eggs. The baker thanks him warmly before disappearing briefly inside his shop. Nothing remarkable happens. In fact, that is precisely the lesson. Hours pass gently beneath the warming summer sun. The baker serves customers one after another. Some purchase only a single loaf. Others buy enough bread to feed large families. An elderly widow counts her coins carefully before choosing the smallest loaf available. Without saying a word, the baker quietly adds an extra bread roll to her basket. She smiles. He smiles back. Neither seems to think the moment unusual. You remember what the silver-haired instructor once said. If you truly understand another person's ordinary life, it becomes much harder to forget that they are human. Now, watching from a respectful distance, those words begin to feel wonderfully true. The baker is not simply selling bread. He remembers names. He asks after sick neighbors. He congratulates a young couple expecting their first child. He slips an extra crust to a hungry stray dog waiting patiently beside the shop. Every small kindness appears completely ordinary. Perhaps that is why it is so beautiful. As midday approaches, the marketplace grows warmer. Children gather around the fountain, splashing cool water upon their faces. Travelers remove their hats while resting beneath the shade of the old lime tree. Merchants fan themselves gently with woven straw hats as the summer breeze briefly disappears. The baker finally closes his stall for a short meal. Rather than eating alone, he carries a small basket toward the monastery gate. Curious, you continue following. There, several elderly monks welcome him with quiet gratitude. The basket contains fresh bread. The monks offer him herbs from their garden in return. No money changes hands. Only simple generosity. You watch the exchange from beneath the shade of an apple tree. Again. Nothing dramatic. Only another ordinary act repeated countless times over the years. The afternoon unfolds much the same way. Customers come and go. Clouds drift lazily across the bright blue sky. The church bell quietly marks each passing hour. You begin noticing something unexpected. Watching someone else's peaceful routine has become strangely calming. There is no need to wonder what might happen next. The next moment simply arrives. And then the next. The world continues at its own gentle pace. Late in the afternoon, the baker finally sweeps flour from the front of his shop. He carefully stacks the empty baskets. The shutters close with familiar wooden creaks. Before leaving, he pauses for a moment. He looks across the marketplace where children continue laughing beside the fountain. Then he smiles quietly to himself. Perhaps he is simply grateful for another ordinary day. Perhaps he is already thinking about tomorrow's bread. Some thoughts belong only to the people who carry them. As evening approaches, you begin the familiar walk back toward the forgotten storehouse. The streets are peaceful. Smoke rises lazily from chimneys. The pleasant aroma of onion soup and roasting vegetables drifts through open windows. Somewhere nearby, someone practices a simple tune upon a wooden flute. The melody follows you almost all the way home. Descending the hidden staircase feels surprisingly comforting. The cool underground air welcomes you like an old friend. Candles already glow softly along the corridors. Supper is being prepared. The scent of fresh stew fills the refuge. The silver-haired instructor waits beside the entrance. He does not immediately ask questions. Instead, the two of you walk quietly through the corridor toward the library. Only after several moments does he speak. What did the baker do? You begin listing everything you observed. He opened his shop. He greeted neighbors. He sold bread. He visited the monastery. He swept the floor. He closed the shutters. The instructor nods kindly. Then he asks another question. What kind of man is he? You stop walking. The answer takes much longer. Finally, you speak. He is patient and generous. He remembers people. The old teacher smiles. You have learned something important today. He reaches for a worn manuscript resting upon a nearby shelf. Anyone can describe what another person does. He carefully brushes a little dust from the cover. But true observation begins when you gently understand who they are. The library grows wonderfully quiet. Only the faint crackle of candlelight accompanies the silence. After a moment, the instructor closes the manuscript. You have completed your first assignment. There is no applause. No ceremony. Only a warm smile that somehow feels more meaningful than either. Outside, evening settles gently over the medieval town. The baker is likely sharing supper with his family. The flower seller has probably placed tomorrow's blooms into fresh water. The monastery bells soon call the brothers to evening prayers. Life continues exactly as it did yesterday. And exactly as it will tomorrow. You return to your small room beneath the ancient streets with a peaceful heart. As you drift towards sleep beneath your wool blanket, you do not dream of secret missions or heroic adventures. Instead, you think about warm bread cooling on a wooden shelf. A kind smile shared across a busy marketplace. And the quiet beauty hidden inside an ordinary medieval day. Tomorrow, your education will take another gentle step forward, as your teachers begin showing you that every road leading away from the town carries its own stories, and every traveler, no matter how ordinary they appear, has a journey worth patiently observing. The lonely roads. Beyond the town gates. The warm glow of the library candles slowly fades behind you. Their gentle light, reflected in polished wooden shelves and carefully copied manuscripts, becomes only a memory as another peaceful night settles over the hidden refuge. One by one, the corridors grow quiet. Doors close softly. Blankets are pulled a little higher against the cool underground air. Soon, the only sounds that remain are the steady crackling of the kitchen fire and the distant, familiar dripping of water echoing through ancient stone passages. It is a comforting silence. You sleep deeply. Above the refuge, the medieval town rests beneath a sky filled with quiet stars. The marketplace that bustled with voices only hours before now belongs to stray cats, gentle breezes, and the occasional watchman's slow footsteps along the walls. By the time the first pale light touches the eastern horizon, the bronze bell once again welcomes a new day. Its calm voice carries through every corridor. You rise as you always do. Blanket folded. Face washed. Breakfast shared. The rhythm of the refuge has become as dependable as the changing seasons. Yet something feels slightly different this morning. The silver-haired instructor is not alone. Standing beside him is another teacher whom you have seen only occasionally over the years. Unlike the elder instructor, this man spends much of his time traveling beyond the town. His cloak is faded from long journeys beneath sun and rain. His boots have been repaired countless times, each careful stitch telling the story of another distant road. His beard carries streaks of grey, though his eyes remain bright and wonderfully observant. He smiles warmly at the gathered students. Good morning. His voice is calm, carrying the easy confidence of someone who has spent years listening more than speaking. I hear you have learned to understand people. He pauses. Now it is time to understand places. Several children exchange curious glances. The traveling instructor walks slowly toward a large wooden table. Upon it rests a hand-drawn map. Not a grand map filled with kingdoms and castles. Instead, it shows only the nearby countryside. The town. A winding river. Several villages. 2 monasteries. A stone bridge. An old mill. A forest stretching across the western hills. Nothing more. He places one finger upon the map. Most people, he says quietly, believe roads exist only to take us somewhere. He gently traces one narrow path leading away from the town. But roads also remember. The children lean closer. He smiles. A muddy road remembers yesterday's rain. A bridge remembers every traveler who crossed it. A village remembers every visitor. The land tells stories. If we walk slowly enough to notice. The words settle gently over the room. For the next several days, your lessons begin changing in small but meaningful ways. Instead of observing busy marketplaces, you and the older students spend mornings studying the countryside surrounding the town. Not through books alone, but by walking. Always walking. The first journey begins just after sunrise. The traveling instructor leads a small group through the eastern gate. The town slowly disappears behind you. Almost immediately, the world feels different. The noise of merchants and blacksmiths fades into birdsong. Stone streets give way to packed earth. Fresh morning air carries the scent of damp grass, wildflowers, and distant pine trees. A gentle breeze ripples across fields where young wheat sways like soft green waves beneath the rising sun. No one hurries. The instructor walks at a pace that allows everyone to notice the countryside rather than simply pass through it. He occasionally pauses. Not because he is tired, but because he has seen something worth sharing. At one bend in the road, he kneels beside several footprints pressed into the damp earth. What do you see? The children study the marks carefully. A horse. A cart. Someone walking. He nods approvingly. Then he points farther ahead. What else? This time the answers come more slowly. Finally, you notice something. The footprints are deeper on one side. The instructor smiles. Very good. The cart was heavier when it arrived than when it returned. Perhaps it carried grain into town. Perhaps it delivered timber. No one knows for certain. But the road quietly offers clues. Farther along, the group reaches a small stone bridge crossing a narrow stream. The water moves gently over smooth rocks, making a peaceful sound that almost invites everyone to stop and listen. The instructor does exactly that. He sits upon the bridge wall. The children join him. For several minutes, nothing happens. Sunlight sparkles upon the flowing water. Dragonflies drift above the stream. A kingfisher suddenly flashes bright blue before disappearing downstream. Finally, the instructor speaks. Travelers often hurry across bridges. He looks toward the water below. But bridges are wonderful places. They allow you to see who is coming and who is going. He encourages the children to simply watch. An elderly farmer guides 2 oxen toward the town. A young woman balances a basket of eggs with practiced ease. 3 monks walk quietly together, their conversation so soft that only occasional laughter reaches the bridge. Every traveler has a destination. Every traveler carries a different pace. Some appear cheerful. Some thoughtful. Some tired after long journeys. The bridge welcomes them all without judgment. The lesson continues throughout the morning. The instructor rarely gives long speeches. Instead, he asks questions. What flowers grow beside the road? Which trees prefer wetter ground? Where do birds build their nests? Why might travelers stop beneath this oak instead of that one? Gradually, you begin realizing that the countryside has its own quiet rhythm, just as the marketplace did. Farmers leave home before sunrise. Millers begin working when the river runs strongest. Shepherds choose cooler hours for moving their flocks. Even the shadows cast by old trees slowly change throughout the day, offering comfortable places for weary travelers to rest. Around midday, the group reaches a gently sloping hill overlooking the valley. The instructor invites everyone to sit. Below, the medieval landscape stretches peacefully in every direction. Fields divided by low stone walls. Small villages nestled among orchards. Thin trails of chimney smoke rising into the calm blue sky. Church towers standing quietly above distant rooftops. It is a beautiful sight. Not grand. Not dramatic. Simply peaceful. The instructor removes a small loaf of bread from his satchel. Soon everyone shares a simple midday meal. Bread. Cheese. Dried apples. Cool spring water. Nothing tastes finer than food enjoyed beneath an open sky after a quiet morning's walk. As the children eat, the instructor smiles toward the distant road winding through the valley. You have spent years learning to notice people. He breaks another piece of bread. Now notice something else. The road itself changes every traveler. He explains that someone beginning a journey walks differently from someone returning home. A merchant with empty wagons moves differently from one carrying a successful harvest. Pilgrims walk with hope. Soldiers with purpose. Farmers with familiarity. Every journey leaves its gentle mark. You find yourself watching the distant travelers with fresh curiosity. How many stories quietly pass along this road every day? How many dreams? How many farewells? How many joyful homecomings? The road keeps them all, yet tells none of them aloud. The afternoon breeze carries the sweet scent of blooming clover across the hillside. A skylark sings somewhere high above, nearly invisible against the bright summer sky. The moment feels wonderfully calm. As you prepare for the walk back toward the town, the traveling instructor rises slowly. He dusts a few crumbs from his cloak before looking at the winding road disappearing beyond the hills. "Tomorrow," he says gently, "we shall walk much farther." He smiles. For every road eventually leads to someone who has a story worth hearing. With that quiet promise, the group begins the peaceful journey home, while the long medieval road stretches patiently onward, waiting for another sunrise and another traveler. The inn at the crossroads. The traveling instructor's quiet promise stays with you as you walk back toward the town. Every road eventually leads to someone who has a story worth hearing. The words seem to drift through your thoughts as gently as the evening breeze moving across the fields. Behind you, the countryside settles beneath the golden light of late afternoon. Swallows skim low over the meadows, catching tiny insects before returning to their nests beneath the eaves of distant farmhouses. Along the winding road, farmers guide their carts home while shepherds whistle softly to their flocks. No one appears to be in a hurry. The day is ending exactly as countless days have ended before it. By the time you reach the hidden refuge beneath the old storehouse, the familiar scent of vegetable stew is already filling the corridors. The evening follows its gentle rhythm. Supper is shared. Bowls are washed. Candles are lit one by one. Later, one of the younger children reads aloud from a beautifully illustrated manuscript describing the changing seasons and the planting of orchards. The story is simple, and before long several listeners begin quietly yawning. Soon, the refuge grows peaceful once again. The following morning arrives beneath a sky washed clean by gentle overnight rain. The bronze bell welcomes another day. Breakfast is warm and comforting. Fresh oat porridge, rye bread, and a little soft cheese prepared by a nearby shepherd. The traveling instructor waits patiently near the entrance. His walking staff rests lightly in one hand. His weathered leather satchel hangs across his shoulder. When the older students gather, he smiles. "Today," he says, "we will follow the western road. It is a road few of you have traveled before. Leaving the town behind, you notice how fresh everything feels after the rain. The earth is dark and rich beneath your boots. Small pools of water reflect drifting white clouds. The leaves of every tree sparkle with tiny droplets that catch the morning sunlight. Even the air seems cleaner. The instructor walks without rushing. Every now and then he pauses beside something that many travelers would pass without a second glance. A snail slowly crossing the road. Fresh hoof prints leading toward the hills. A patch of wild thyme growing between old stones. The road changes every day, he says quietly. So should the eyes of the traveler. Hours pass almost unnoticed. The gentle climb through rolling hills eventually brings the group to a place where two well-used roads meet. Standing there is a modest stone building with a roof of weathered wooden shingles. A wooden sign hangs above the entrance, swaying gently in the breeze. It shows the simple carving of a resting horse. The traveling instructor smiles. An inn. The children study the building with quiet curiosity. It is much smaller than the Grand Tavern, serving powerful masters. The castle on the hill. The first evening stars continue to shimmer quietly above the old oak tree. For a few peaceful moments after the traveling instructor has gone, you remain seated beneath its broad branches. A gentle breeze slips through the leaves overhead, carrying with it the faint scent of summer flowers from somewhere beyond the hidden opening in the ceiling. His words stay with you. The world is full of ordinary people quietly living extraordinary ordinary lives. It is a simple sentence. Yet as you think about the baker, the innkeeper, the shepherd guiding his flock, and the pilgrims walking dusty roads, you begin to understand that history is built not only by kings and queens, but by countless ordinary people whose names were never written into great books. That thought comforts you. Eventually the evening bell sounds above the town. Candles are extinguished one by one. The corridors grow wonderfully quiet. Soon the refuge sleeps. Morning arrives wrapped in soft mist. Even before the bronze bell rings, you notice the gentle sound of rain tapping lightly upon the hidden opening above the courtyard. It is not a heavy storm, only a quiet summer shower that seems to wash the entire countryside while the world slowly awakens. The familiar morning routine unfolds without change. Blankets are folded. Faces are washed. Warm porridge is shared. Fresh bread is passed from hand to hand. Nothing feels hurried. The steady rhythm of these small rituals has become the foundation upon which every lesson quietly rests. After breakfast, both of your teachers wait beside the old wooden table where the hand-drawn maps are usually spread. The silver-haired instructor smiles. Our journeys have taken us through towns. He nods toward the traveling instructor. And along quiet roads. The traveling instructor gently places another map upon the table. This one shows only a single hill. At its summit stands a large stone castle surrounded by fields, orchards, and a small village. Today, he says softly, we will visit people whose lives are often remembered by history. He pauses. But we shall pay equal attention to those history usually forgets. The children gather their simple grey cloaks. Before long, everyone is walking through the eastern gate once more. The rain has already passed. Tiny drops still cling to wildflowers beside the road. The air smells wonderfully fresh, carrying hints of damp earth, pine trees, and newly washed grass. The castle appears long before you reach it. Standing upon a gentle hill, its thick stone walls catch the morning sunlight, giving them a warm golden color rather than the cold gray you imagined. Tall towers rise quietly into the brightening sky. Colorful banners flutter lazily from the battlements whenever the breeze passes. From a distance, it looks magnificent. Almost like something from an illuminated manuscript. The younger children cannot help smiling. The traveling instructor notices. It is beautiful, he agrees. Beauty and comfort. He smiles gently. Are not always the same thing. The road winds steadily uphill. As you draw nearer, the castle slowly changes. The grand towers remain impressive. But now you notice the smaller details. Workers repairing a broken wooden fence. Stable hands carrying heavy bundles of hay. Women hanging freshly washed linen behind the kitchens. A mason carefully replacing weathered stones one at a time. The castle is not standing still. Like the town, like the villages, like the inn at the crossroads. It is alive. The great wooden gate stands open. Several guards greet arriving farmers who have brought vegetables, eggs, and sacks of grain. The instructors exchange polite words with the gatekeeper, who clearly recognizes the traveling instructor from earlier visits. Soon your group is welcomed inside. The castle courtyard is surprisingly busy. A blacksmith repairs horseshoes beneath a small shelter. Children chase a playful puppy around the well. Laundry flutters gently between two stone buildings. Several cooks hurry across the courtyard carrying baskets filled with herbs freshly gathered from the castle garden. You expected silence. Instead, the castle feels almost like a small village enclosed by stone walls. The silver-haired instructor gathers everyone beside the well. What do you notice? One child points toward the towering keep. It is much larger than our town hall. Another notices the guards walking along the walls. Someone else watches several pigeons nesting comfortably beneath a roof. The instructor smiles. Good. But look beyond the stone. The children grow quiet again. Gradually, more details appear. The baker carrying warm bread toward the kitchens. The carpenter repairing a wooden cart. The elderly woman sweeping leaves from the chapel steps. The gardener trimming rose bushes beside a narrow path. The stable boy quietly brushing a patient old horse. Everywhere you look, ordinary work continues. The castle depends upon far more than knights. The silver-haired instructor nods approvingly. Many people remember the lord who lives here. He gestures gently toward the busy courtyard. But hundreds of others quietly make this place possible. The children slowly walk through different parts of the castle under the guidance of a friendly steward. The great hall is impressive, filled with long wooden tables, colorful tapestries, and tall windows that pour warm sunlight across the stone floor. Yet even here, servants polish benches, arrange candles, sweep rushes from the floor, and prepare for tonight's evening meal. No room remains untouched by quiet daily work. Later, you visit the castle kitchens. They are warmer than anywhere else. Several large hearths glow steadily. Fresh bread cools upon wooden racks. Pots of vegetable stew simmer gently over low fires. The comforting aroma of rosemary, onions, garlic, and freshly baked bread fills the air. An elderly cook smiles warmly at the children. Would you like to help? Within moments everyone is peeling carrots, washing herbs, carrying baskets, and arranging wooden bowls upon long tables. No one minds. In fact, the work feels strangely peaceful. The cook hums softly while kneading dough. One kitchen maid tells cheerful stories about an adventurous goose that somehow found its way into the pantry the previous winter. Even the scullery boy laughs while carefully polishing heavy copper pots. You begin realizing something unexpected. The castle feels grand from the outside. Inside, it runs on the same simple kindness, patience, and cooperation you have seen everywhere else. As midday approaches, the children share lunch with many of the castle workers. Fresh soup, warm bread, a little soft cheese, stewed apples sweetened with honey. The conversation is gentle. One stable hand speaks proudly about a foal born earlier that spring. A gardener explains how the roses bloom differently depending upon the weather. A mason quietly describes replacing stones that have stood for nearly 200 years. Their stories are not dramatic. They do not need to be. They are simply lives honestly lived. After the meal, the traveling instructor leads everyone toward a quiet corner of the castle wall overlooking the valley below. From here, the fields stretch endlessly toward distant villages. Roads wind gently across the landscape you have spent so many months exploring. The instructor rests his hands upon the ancient stone. From up here, the world looks peaceful. He smiles. And often, it truly is. The children stand quietly beside him. A hawk circles lazily above the fields. Sheep appear as tiny white dots upon distant hillsides. Smoke rises gently from scattered cottages. The breeze carries the faint sound of church bells drifting across the valley. The castle no longer feels like a place of power alone. It feels like another home. Different from yours, but built upon the same quiet rhythm of ordinary people caring for one another. As the afternoon sun slowly climbs higher, the silver-haired instructor turns toward the children. There is one more place I would like you to see before we return. He smiles. It is much quieter than the castle. And perhaps its lesson is even more important. Together, you leave the bustling courtyard behind and begin walking toward a small stone chapel tucked peacefully within the castle grounds, where another gentle lesson is waiting to unfold. The quiet chapel. The cheerful sounds of the castle courtyard slowly fade behind you. The steady ring of the blacksmith's hammer becomes softer with every step. The laughter of children chasing the puppy drifts away upon the afternoon breeze. Even the warm aroma of fresh bread from the kitchens gradually disappears as the narrow stone path winds toward a quieter corner of the castle grounds. Ahead stands a small chapel. It is much older than the Great Hall. Its weathered stone walls have softened with age, and delicate green moss grows between the ancient blocks. Ivy climbs patiently around the narrow windows, while a single oak tree spreads its broad branches across the little courtyard before the entrance. The building is not large. It does not need to be. There is a peacefulness about it that asks nothing from those who arrive except a few moments of quiet. The silver-haired instructor slows his pace. Without speaking, he gently pushes open the heavy wooden door. It opens with a long, familiar creak. Inside, the chapel is cool and wonderfully still. Sunlight filters through colored glass windows, painting gentle patches of blue, red, and golden light upon the worn stone floor. Tiny specks of dust drift lazily through the beams of sunlight, moving so slowly that they seem almost suspended in time. The children instinctively lower their voices. No one has asked them to. The room itself encourages silence. Several simple wooden benches face a modest stone altar. Fresh wildflowers, gathered from the nearby fields, rest inside a small clay vase. Someone has clearly visited this place only a short while before. A single candle burns quietly beside the altar. Its tiny flame hardly moves. The traveling instructor sits upon one of the benches. The children join him. For several peaceful minutes, no lesson is given. The only sounds are birds singing beyond the open window and the occasional rustle of oak leaves outside. Finally, the silver-haired instructor speaks. Places remember. The children look toward him. This chapel has welcomed joyful weddings. He smiles gently. It has also witnessed quiet farewells. His eyes wander across the old stone walls. Children have been carried here for blessings. Travelers have stopped to give thanks after long journeys. Farmers have prayed for rain. And families have gathered together when harvests were plentiful. He pauses. The stones remember none of the words. But they remember that people came. The children remain wonderfully still. The lesson is unlike any before it. No one is observing footsteps. No one is studying routines. Instead, everyone simply sits quietly within a place that has offered comfort to generations of ordinary people. After a little while, an elderly monk enters carrying a wicker basket filled with herbs gathered from the castle garden. He smiles kindly when he notices the visitors. "Good afternoon." His voice is soft, carrying the calm confidence of someone who has spent many years speaking gently. The instructors greet him warmly. The monk places the basket upon a small wooden table before carefully arranging fresh lavender beside the flowers already resting near the altar. The sweet fragrance slowly fills the room. One of the younger children asks politely, "Do many people visit here?" The monk smiles. "Every day." He looks toward the doorway. "Not always many. Sometimes only one. But there is almost always someone." He brushes a little dust from one of the benches. Some come to celebrate. Some come because they are worried. Others simply wish to sit quietly for a little while. He chuckles softly. And sometimes, people discover that quiet is exactly what they needed. The children exchange gentle smiles. It is a thought worth remembering. After thanking the monk, everyone steps back into the afternoon sunshine. The warmth feels pleasant after the cool stone chapel. The oak tree overhead whispers softly as the breeze moves through its leaves. Nearby, bees wander peacefully among the wildflowers growing beside the path. The instructors lead the group toward the castle gardens. Unlike the busy vegetable gardens behind the kitchens, these are designed simply to be beautiful. Roses climb wooden trellises. White lilies bloom beside narrow pathways. Small fountains send gentle streams of water into round stone basins where birds stop to drink. An elderly gardener kneels carefully beside a rose bush. He trims away faded blossoms with slow, practiced movements. The traveling instructor watches quietly before asking, "How long have you cared for these gardens?" The gardener thinks for a moment. Nearly 30 years. He smiles as though surprised by the number himself. Every spring they bloom. Every autumn they rest. He gently touches one unopened rosebud. And every year, they teach me patience all over again. The children help gather fallen leaves into woven baskets. No one speaks very much. The work itself feels calming. The scent of roses mixes with lavender carried on the summer breeze. A robin lands only a few steps away, tilting its head curiously before hopping into the grass. Time seems to move more slowly here. Eventually, the castle bell rings softly, announcing the late afternoon. Servants begin preparing the evening meal. Stable hands lead horses toward fresh water. The blacksmith's fire burns lower as another day's work comes to an end. The instructors gather everyone near the castle gate. Before leaving, the silver-haired teacher looks back toward the great stone walls glowing warmly beneath the afternoon sun. "What did you expect to find here?" Several children think carefully. One answers, "Knights." Another smiles. "I thought everyone would be busy all the time." A third quietly says, "I thought castles belonged only to lords." The instructor nods kindly. "And what did you actually find?" This answer comes much more easily. Bakers, gardeners, cooks, children, carpenters, a monk, a gardener who loves his roses. The old teacher smiles. Exactly. He lets the silence linger for a few moments before continuing. The greatest mistake we can make is believing that powerful places are built only by powerful people. He glances toward the castle one last time. Every loaf of bread, every repaired roof, every swept floor, every tended garden, they all matter. The journey home begins beneath the gentle light of the late afternoon. The road slopes gradually away from the castle hill. Behind you, the towers slowly become smaller against the wide summer sky. Ahead, fields ripple softly beneath the breeze. The children walk comfortably together. No one feels the need to hurry. As they pass a meadow bright with wildflowers, the traveling instructor quietly joins your side. "You know," he says thoughtfully, "many people dream of meeting kings." He smiles toward the distant road. "I have always preferred meeting gardeners." You cannot help smiling. Why? He watches a butterfly drift across the path. Because gardeners understand something very important. He pauses. They know that almost everything worthwhile takes time. The two of you continue walking in peaceful silence. The town gradually appears on the horizon, its church tower rising above the rooftops exactly as it always has. Smoke curls gently from hundreds of chimneys. The evening bells begin their familiar song. Crossing through the old gate and descending once more into the hidden refuge, you feel a quiet sense of gratitude. The world beyond your home no longer seems mysterious. With every gentle lesson, it has become more familiar, more human. That evening, after supper, you sit beneath the great oak tree growing through the hidden courtyard. The first stars appear overhead. Their quiet light reminds you that tomorrow will bring another sunrise. And with it, another lesson. Soon, your teachers will begin speaking about something far more difficult than observing roads or castles. They will speak about trust. How it is earned. How it is protected. And why, in every corner of the medieval world, it is far more valuable than gold. That lesson, like all the others before it, will begin quietly. No one trusts an assassin. The weight of a secret. The evening stars shine quietly above the hidden courtyard. For a long while, you remain beneath the great oak tree, listening to its leaves whisper softly in the gentle summer breeze. The day's visit to the castle lingers pleasantly in your thoughts. You remember the gardener tending his roses, the elderly monk arranging fresh lavender inside the chapel, the cooks sharing warm soup, the stable boy brushing an old horse with patient hands. From a distance, the castle had seemed like a place of power. Up close, it had simply become another community of ordinary people quietly helping one another. It is a comforting memory. Eventually, the silver-haired instructor appears in the courtyard. He does not interrupt your thoughts. Instead, he quietly sits beside you upon the old wooden bench beneath the tree. For several minutes, neither of you speaks. The silence feels familiar now, almost like another teacher. Finally, the instructor looks toward the stars visible through the opening above. "Have you noticed something?" he asks softly. You think for a moment. There are kind people everywhere. The old man smiles. Yes. He lets another gentle silence pass before continuing. And what do all those people have in common? You picture the baker, the innkeeper, the monk, the gardener, the shepherd, the flower seller. Slowly, the answer comes. They trust each other. The instructor nods. They do. His voice remains calm. The baker trusts that the miller will bring flour. The farmer trusts that the seasons will return. The traveler trusts that the bridge will still be standing. The innkeeper trusts strangers enough to welcome them. He folds his weathered hands together. Trust is one of the quiet foundations upon which the whole medieval world rests. The sentence lingers in the peaceful evening air. You had never thought of trust in quite that way. Unlike castles or roads, it cannot be seen. Yet without it, everything becomes much more difficult. The instructor rises slowly. Tomorrow, he says, we shall begin learning about that invisible foundation. He smiles kindly. And why it is so precious. The following morning arrives beneath a sky of pale blue. A cool breeze carries the scent of fresh rain from distant hills, though no clouds yet appear above the town. The familiar bronze bell greets another peaceful day. Breakfast unfolds as always. Warm porridge, fresh bread, quiet conversation. After the meal, the older students gather beneath the oak tree. The silver-haired instructor carries no maps today. No books. Only a small wooden box. He places it carefully upon a low table. Without opening it, he asks a simple question. What makes a friend? The children exchange thoughtful glances. Someone answers. Kindness. Another says. Honesty. A third quietly offers. Helping one another. The instructor smiles warmly. All wonderful answers. He finally opens the box. Inside rests nothing extraordinary. Several smooth stones. A length of rope. A wooden cup. A little cloth pouch. One by one, he places each object upon the table. What do these have in common? No one knows. The instructor picks up the rope. It is useful. He gently pulls upon it, because every strand supports the others. Next, he lifts the wooden cup. It carries water because every piece of wood remains joined. Finally, he holds the little cloth pouch. It protects what is inside because every stitch still holds. He looks around at the children. Trust is very much the same. It is built. Little by little. The lesson continues throughout the morning. Not with stories of great betrayals. Not with tales of hidden enemies. Instead, with ordinary examples. A farmer borrowing a neighbor's horse. A miller weighing grain fairly. A merchant returning the correct change. A child keeping a promise made to a younger brother. The instructor explains that most medieval communities are small. People know one another. They remember. A good reputation is earned slowly. Lost quickly. The children spend the next hour performing a surprisingly simple exercise. Each receives a small clay cup filled almost to the brim with water. They stand in pairs. One child closes their eyes. The other gently guides them through the courtyard using only quiet spoken directions. One step. Now stop. A little to your left. There is a stone ahead. The exercise feels awkward at first. Trusting another person's voice is not easy. Several children hesitate. A few laugh nervously after nearly stepping into flower beds. But gradually, everyone begins moving more confidently. The courtyard becomes wonderfully quiet. No one wishes to confuse those depending upon gentle instructions. When the exercise ends, the instructor asks another question. Which was harder? Leading or trusting? The answers vary. Some preferred giving directions. Others found it easier to follow. The instructor nods thoughtfully. Both require kindness. If the guide becomes careless, someone may stumble. If the listener refuses to trust, they cannot move forward. The lesson seems almost too simple. Yet somehow it feels important. Later that afternoon, the traveling instructor joins the group. He carries a worn leather satchel filled with small everyday objects collected during his journeys. A wooden spoon. A horseshoe. A broken buckle. A tiny carved bird made by an unknown craftsman. He places them upon a blanket spread beneath the oak tree. Every one of these, he says quietly, was given to me. The children look surprised. He smiles. Not purchased. Given. He picks up the little carved bird. A shepherd carved this during a long winter. He insisted I keep it. Next comes the spoon. An innkeeper noticed I had lost mine, so she quietly replaced it. Then the horseshoe. A blacksmith refused payment because I once helped him carry timber after a storm. The instructor looks around the circle. I remember every one of those people. Not because of the gifts, but because they trusted me enough to offer them. The afternoon breeze gently stirs the oak leaves overhead. Sunlight dances softly across the grass. The children listen without speaking. Trust, you begin realizing, is not something dramatic. Most often, it appears in small moments. A shared meal. A borrowed tool. A kind word. A promise quietly kept. As the day draws toward evening, the instructors invite everyone to walk beyond the town walls one last time before supper. The road feels wonderfully familiar now. Wildflowers sway gently beside the path. Bees hum lazily among blooming clover. The same little stream continues flowing beneath its old stone bridge, just as it did weeks before. The silver-haired instructor pauses halfway across the bridge. He rests one hand upon the weathered stone. Bridges, he says softly, are built upon trust. The children look puzzled. If people believe a bridge is strong, they cross. If they do not, they remain where they are. He smiles. Sometimes people are very much like bridges. The sentence stays with you as everyone quietly continues walking. The sun begins its slow descent toward the western hills. Long golden shadows stretch peacefully across the fields. Tomorrow, your teachers will gently explore another side of trust. Not how it is built, but how easily silence, misunderstandings, and fear can slowly pull people apart. And in that lesson, you will discover that carrying a secret is often far heavier than carrying any bundle along the longest medieval road. The quiet weight of unspoken things. The evening sun slips slowly behind the western hills. Its golden light fades gently across the valley, leaving the fields wrapped in soft shades of amber and blue. The little stone bridge grows quiet once more after the children and their instructors continue their walk toward the town. No one speaks very much. The lesson about trust lingers comfortably in everyone's thoughts. Some ideas are like seeds. They need silence before they begin to grow. The familiar rooftops of the medieval town soon appear beyond the fields. Thin trails of chimney smoke rise peacefully into the cooling evening air. The church bell marks the end of another ordinary day, its gentle voice echoing across the countryside before gradually disappearing. Back beneath the forgotten storehouse, the hidden refuge welcomes everyone home. Candles are already glowing along the stone corridors. The kitchen is filled with the comforting aroma of lentil stew, fresh onions, and warm rye bread. The younger children are setting wooden bowls upon the long tables while several older students help stir the evening meal. Everything follows the same calm rhythm that has shaped your life since childhood. There is something deeply reassuring about familiar routines. After supper, everyone gathers in the library. Tonight, no lessons are copied from old manuscripts. Instead, the silver-haired instructor removes a beautifully carved wooden chest from one of the highest shelves. It is not large. The polished oak has darkened with age, and tiny iron hinges hold the lid securely in place. The children watch with quiet curiosity. The instructor sets the chest upon the table. He does not open it. Instead, he asks, "What do you think is inside?" The answers come gently. Books, letters, coins, a family treasure. The old teacher smiles at every suggestion. Then he slowly lifts the lid. Inside, there is almost nothing. Only a single white feather. The children glance at one another in surprise. The instructor carefully lifts the feather into the warm candlelight. It is very light. He lays it upon the palm of his hand. So light that the smallest breeze could carry it away. He pauses before continuing. But words? He looks around the room. Are often much heavier. The library becomes wonderfully still. The children listen. If someone speaks kindly, the heart grows lighter. If someone speaks carelessly, the heart may carry those words for many years. He gently returns the feather to its little chest. The lesson is not about arguments, or shouting, or cruel people. Instead, it is about something much quieter. The things left unsaid. The misunderstandings that grow simply because no one pauses to ask a gentle question. The next morning, the traveling instructor leads the older students to the village just beyond the castle hill. Unlike the busy marketplace, this village is wonderfully peaceful. Children chase chickens through grassy lanes. A woman hangs fresh linen outside her cottage. An elderly carpenter carefully sands a wooden stool while humming a cheerful tune. Nothing remarkable appears to be happening. The instructor gathers everyone beneath a broad apple tree. This morning, he says softly, "I want you to watch conversations." The task feels unusual. Soon, the children quietly spread throughout the village. You choose a place beneath the shade of a willow overlooking the village well. People arrive throughout the morning. Some collect water. Some pause to rest. Others simply exchange a few friendly words before continuing with their work. A shepherd asks after his neighbor's sick cow. Two sisters laugh while comparing baskets of fresh herbs. An old woman thanks a young boy for carrying her firewood. Most conversations last only a minute or two. Yet everyone ends with smiles. As the hours pass, something becomes wonderfully clear. The village is held together not by walls, nor by laws, but by countless small conversations repeated every single day. The traveling instructor gathers everyone before lunch. What did you notice? One child smiles. Everyone asks about each other's families. Another says, they remember little things. Someone else quietly adds, no one seemed too busy to stop for a moment. The instructor nods. Exactly. He looks toward the little well. Trust grows through ordinary conversations. Not grand speeches, but small kindnesses repeated many times. After a simple lunch beneath the apple tree, the instructor suggests another gentle exercise. The children pair together. One partner quietly tells the other a short story about something they noticed that morning. The listener must repeat the story to another child. Then that child shares it again. The story travels gently around the circle. When it finally returns to the first speaker, everyone smiles. Several little details have changed. The shepherd who owned 3 sheep somehow now owns 5. The blue ribbon worn by one little girl has mysteriously become green. The basket of apples has somehow become pears. No one intended to change the story. It simply happened. The traveling instructor chuckles softly. This, he says kindly, is why patient listening matters. He kneels beside the children. Most misunderstandings are not born from unkindness. They grow because people remember differently. The afternoon breeze stirs the apple blossoms overhead. Petals drift slowly through the air like tiny white feathers. The lesson feels peaceful, gentle, almost comforting. As the group begins walking back toward the town, the silver-haired instructor joins them. He carries a folded piece of cloth beneath one arm. When everyone reaches a grassy meadow beside the road, he spreads the cloth upon the ground. The children gather around. Without speaking, he places a smooth stone in the center. Then another. And another. Soon the cloth holds 20 small stones arranged close together. He gently lifts one away. The others remain exactly where they are. Then he removes another. Again. Very little changes. Finally, after several more stones are lifted, the shape begins to weaken. The remaining stones slowly tumble apart. The instructor smiles gently. Communities are like this. One kind conversation may seem very small. One helpful neighbor may seem ordinary. But together, they quietly hold everything else in place. The children study the little pile of stones for several moments. No one speaks. The lesson explains itself. By late afternoon, everyone begins the peaceful journey home. The road feels wonderfully familiar now. Wildflowers nod gently in the breeze. Dragonflies skim above the stream. The distant castle glows warmly beneath the lowering sun. You realize that nearly every lesson during the past weeks has shared the same quiet message. People need one another. The baker needs the miller. The gardener needs the rain. The innkeeper welcomes travelers. The villagers greet neighbors. The monks share herbs. The shepherd trusts the bridge. Even the hidden refuge depends upon every pair of willing hands. Back beneath the old storehouse, evening settles softly once again. After supper, you find the silver-haired instructor sitting beneath the great oak tree. He watches the first stars appear through the opening overhead. You sit beside him. For a while, neither of you speaks. Finally, you ask, "Why have we spent so much time learning about trust?" The old man smiles without looking away from the stars. Because history often remembers famous names. He says quietly, but ordinary people remember something else. You wait. They remember how someone made them feel. The breeze gently stirs the oak leaves. If people feel safe, they welcome you. If they feel respected, they speak honestly. If they feel understood, they become friends. He turns toward you at last. And if they feel fear, he lets the thought rest gently in the silence. They quietly close their doors. The stars continue appearing one by one above the refuge. You begin to understand why your teachers have spent years showing you bakers instead of battles, gardeners instead of generals, roads instead of royal courts. Because the true heart of the medieval world was never found in its castles alone. It lived in its people. Tomorrow, your lessons will take one final gentle turn. For the first time, your instructors will speak about why those who lived secret lives even when their intentions were good often carried a quiet loneliness that no amount of skill could ever completely erase. It will be the most thoughtful lesson of all, and perhaps the saddest. Yet, like every lesson before it, it will unfold slowly, peacefully, and with kindness. The loneliness of a hidden life. A face no one truly knows. Another peaceful night settles over the hidden refuge. The stars shine quietly above the opening in the courtyard, their pale light filtering through the broad branches of the old oak tree. One by one, candles are gently extinguished throughout the stone corridors. The library falls silent. The kitchen fire burns lower until only glowing embers remain. Soon, the entire refuge is asleep. Above, the medieval town rests beneath the same sky. The baker has closed his shutters. The innkeeper has swept the last crumbs from the floor. The gardener at the castle has finished watering his roses. The old monk has likely whispered his final evening prayer before retiring to his small stone room. Across the countryside, ordinary people drift peacefully into sleep after another honest day's work. The bronze bell greets the morning just before sunrise. Its familiar sound echoes softly through the refuge, as comforting now as birdsong. The morning follows its gentle rhythm. Blankets are folded. Water splashes quietly into wooden basins. Fresh bread is shared around long tables. The younger children laugh softly over something amusing before the instructors gently remind everyone to lower their voices. After breakfast, the silver-haired instructor gathers the older students beneath the great oak tree. Today he carries no maps, no wooden box, no carved objects, only a small polished mirror wrapped carefully in linen. He unwraps it slowly and places it upon the table. The mirror reflects the green leaves overhead and the soft morning sky beyond the courtyard opening. The instructor smiles. Come. One by one, each student looks into the mirror. They see familiar faces. Tired eyes still waking from sleep. Hair needing attention. Quiet smiles. Nothing unusual. When everyone has finished, the instructor asks gently, "How many faces do you have?" Several children laugh. One. Of course. The instructor nods. Most people are fortunate. He pauses. They are the same person wherever they go. He looks thoughtfully at the mirror again. The baker is always the baker. The gardener remains the gardener. The monk remains the monk. The innkeeper welcomes everyone with the same warm smile. They need remember only one life. His voice becomes quieter. But not everyone receives that gift. The children listen carefully. The traveling instructor quietly joins the circle. He carries his weathered walking staff but says nothing. The silver-haired teacher continues. There are people who spend so much time hiding themselves that eventually they forget which face truly belongs to them. The words drift gently through the morning air. There is no fear in his voice. Only quiet sadness. To help explain, he tells a simple story. Long ago, he says, there lived a traveling storyteller. Every village expected something different. In one place he acted cheerful. In another he pretended to be wise. Elsewhere he became funny. Some villages knew him by one name, others by another. Years passed. One evening, after finishing another tale beside another fire, someone asked him, "What is your real name?" The storyteller could not answer. Not because he wished to lie, but because he had worn so many different faces that he no longer knew which one was truly his own. The children remained silent. The story feels strangely heavy despite its simplicity. The instructor carefully wraps the mirror once more. Never become so busy wearing masks that you forget your own smile. Later that morning, the older students accompany the traveling instructor into the town. Not to the marketplace this time. Instead, they wander through quiet residential streets where families are beginning another ordinary day. A father repairs a wooden fence while his daughter gathers fallen apples beneath a tree. An elderly woman waters herbs growing outside her cottage. Two brothers carry fishing nets toward the river. Nothing dramatic happens. The instructor encourages everyone simply to notice one thing. How naturally these people belong. The neighbors greet them by name. Children wave as they pass. Shopkeepers smile without hesitation. Everywhere you look, familiar faces recognize one another. The traveling instructor finally speaks. Belonging. He watches two old friends stop to share a laugh. Is one of life's greatest comforts. The group continues walking. Soon they reach the little bridge crossing the stream. The same bridge where so many earlier lessons quietly unfolded. The water still flows peacefully over smooth stones. Dragonflies still skim above its surface. The willow branches still sway gently in the breeze. Some places seem almost untouched by time. The instructor sits upon the bridge wall. So many travelers pass this place. He smiles. Yet only a few truly belong here. The children think quietly. Belonging. It is a different kind of lesson. You suddenly remember the baker greeting nearly every customer by name. The innkeeper welcoming familiar travelers. The monk arranging flowers inside the little chapel. They belonged. Not because of wealth. Not because of importance. but because people knew them, trusted them, missed them when they were absent. The realization settles softly in your heart. The traveling instructor notices your thoughtful expression. You are wondering something. You nod. If someone spends their whole life hiding, where do they belong? The instructor does not answer immediately. Instead, he watches the stream flowing beneath the bridge. Finally, he speaks. That, he smiles gently, is one of the loneliest questions a person can ask. The breeze stirs the willow branches overhead. Tiny leaves drift onto the water before floating quietly downstream. No one says another word. Sometimes silence carries the answer more gently than speech. By midday, the group returns to the hidden refuge. Lunch is served beneath the oak tree. Fresh vegetable soup, dark bread, sweet pears from a nearby orchard. Everything feels wonderfully ordinary. Yet the morning's lesson quietly changes the way you look at the people around you. The cooks, the teachers, the younger children, the scribes copying old books. They all belong here. This hidden refuge is their home. The afternoon sun slowly climbs higher above the courtyard. The silver-haired instructor joins you beneath the shade of the oak. There is one final part to today's lesson. He smiles kindly. It begins this evening. When we speak about the difference between living in secret and living in solitude, the two are not the same. And before the stars rise above the medieval town once again, you will begin to understand why even the quietest life still needs friendship, honesty, and a place that truly feels like home. Every hearth needs a home. The afternoon sunlight slowly softens as it reaches the hidden courtyard. Golden beams filter through the leaves of the great oak tree, painting quiet patterns across the ancient stone floor. Around you, the refuge settles into its familiar rhythm once again. In the kitchen, bread is being prepared for the evening meal. From the library comes the gentle scratching of quill pens as older students patiently copy faded manuscripts. Somewhere farther down the corridor, younger children laugh for only a moment before remembering to lower their voices. It is a peaceful place. A place that feels wonderfully familiar. Yet your thoughts continue returning to the traveling instructor's question. If someone spends their whole life hiding, where do they belong? The answer still feels distant. After the midday meal, the silver-haired instructor invites only the oldest students to accompany him above ground. No lessons. No assignments. Only a walk. The summer afternoon is pleasantly warm. A soft breeze carries the scent of freshly cut hay across the fields outside the town walls. The instructor chooses a narrow footpath rather than the familiar road leading toward the marketplace. Soon the sounds of the town fade behind you. Only birdsong and the quiet hum of bees remain. The path winds gently between fields of ripening wheat. The golden stalks sway together like calm waves upon the sea. Every now and then, the instructor pauses not to teach, but simply to admire the world around him. A family of rabbits disappears into tall grass. Butterflies drift lazily among clusters of purple wildflowers. A skylark rises almost straight into the blue sky, singing so joyfully that the sound seems to belong to the summer itself. Eventually, the path reaches a small hill overlooking the valley. The instructor sits upon an old fallen oak log. The students gather nearby. For several minutes, no one speaks. The silence is comfortable. The breeze moves steadily through the wheat below. In the distance, you can see the castle upon its hill, the winding river, the little bridge, and even the crossroads in where travelers pause before continuing their journeys. The entire landscape feels connected. Finally, the silver-haired instructor breaks the silence. Look carefully. The children do. What do you see? One student points toward the distant castle. Another notices smoke rising from village chimneys. Someone smiles after spotting a shepherd leading his flock along a narrow trail. The instructor nods. They all have somewhere to return. His words are gentle. The shepherd returns to his cottage. The monk returns to his monastery. The baker returns to his family. The innkeeper closes his door each evening. He watches the valley below. Every honest day's work ends at a familiar hearth. The breeze grows slightly cooler. Clouds drift slowly across the afternoon sky. Then the instructor asks another quiet question. What if someone never truly belongs anywhere? The children think carefully. No one answers immediately. Finally, one girl whispers. They would become lonely. The instructor smiles kindly. Yes. But loneliness is not always caused by being alone. He lets the thought settle. A shepherd may spend an entire day with only his sheep, yet feel completely content. A monk may spend long hours in peaceful silence, and still feel surrounded by friendship. He looks toward the distant town. But a person who believes they cannot let anyone truly know them may feel lonely even in the busiest marketplace. The words drift gently across the hilltop. You begin remembering all the ordinary people you've met over the past weeks. The baker smiled because his neighbors knew him. The gardener laughed because everyone greeted him by name. The innkeeper welcomed strangers openly. None of them carried hidden lives. They simply lived honestly. As the afternoon slowly becomes evening, the instructor leads everyone toward a nearby farmhouse. It is a modest home built of timber and stone, with climbing beans growing beside the doorway and chickens wandering peacefully through the yard. An elderly couple welcomes the instructor warmly. Clearly, they have known one another for many years. Fresh apple juice is poured into simple clay cups. Warm oat cakes are shared around the wooden table. The conversation is wonderfully ordinary. How much rain has fallen this summer? Had the pears ripened yet? Did the swallows return to the old barn this spring? No one speaks about kings. No one discusses great battles. Instead, the talk is filled with gardens, weather, grandchildren, and harvests. The children listen quietly. There is a deep comfort in hearing people who have shared countless ordinary days together. When it is finally time to leave, the elderly woman presses a small cloth bundle into the instructor's hands. Inside are freshly baked honey biscuits. For the children, she says with a smile. The instructor thanks her warmly. As the group walks back toward the town beneath the golden evening sky, he divides the biscuits so everyone receives one. They are simple, sweet with a little honey, soft inside. Perhaps they taste especially good because they were freely given. The instructor smiles as everyone enjoys the little gift. Hospitality, he says quietly, is one of the greatest treasures in the world. It cannot be bought. It can only be shared. The sun slowly disappears beyond the western hills. Long shadows stretch across the road. The church bells begin choosing a different path. What truly makes a good life? The last candle in the library burns low. Its small flame dances gently as the evening breeze slips through a narrow window high in the stone wall. Around the hidden refuge, every corridor has become wonderfully quiet. The cooks have finished washing the wooden bowls. The scribes have carefully covered their ink pots. The younger children sleep peacefully beneath thick wool blankets, dreaming simple dreams that belong only to childhood. Outside, the medieval town has also settled into silence. The baker's oven has long since cooled. The inn at the crossroads welcomes only a few late travelers resting beside its warm hearth. The gardener at the castle has closed the little wooden gate to his roses. Across the valley, farmhouses glow softly beneath a sky scattered with countless stars. The whole world seems to be resting. Before you return to your own room, you pause beneath the great oak tree growing through the open courtyard. Its branches sway gently overhead. You think about everything the past months have quietly taught you. The marketplace. The winding roads. The peaceful stream. The castle kitchens. The little chapel. The crossroads inn. The farmhouse filled with laughter. Every lesson has seemed different. Yet somehow, they all point toward the same quiet truth. A peaceful life is often built from very ordinary things. The following morning arrives wrapped in cool summer air. The bronze bell rings gently, as faithful as ever. Its familiar sound no longer feels like the beginning of another lesson. Instead, it feels like greeting an old friend. After breakfast, the silver-haired instructor invites the oldest students to join him beneath the oak tree one final time. The traveling instructor is already waiting there. Neither carries books. Neither brings maps. Only 2 wooden stools have been placed beneath the shade. The elder instructor smiles. For many weeks, we have shown you the medieval world. He pauses. You have met bakers, gardeners, monks, innkeepers, farmers, travelers, castle workers. He looks around the peaceful courtyard. Today, we ask only one question. He lets the silence settle naturally. What kind of life do you hope to live? No one answers immediately. It is not an easy question. Finally, one student says, "I would like to help people." Another quietly smiles. "I want a little farm." Someone else dreams of copying books in a peaceful monastery. A girl says she hopes to become a healer. Another wishes simply to raise a happy family. Every answer is different. Yet none speak of glory. None speak of riches. The silver-haired instructor nods warmly after each response. There are many good lives. He smiles. They do not all look the same. The traveling instructor quietly reaches into his weathered satchel. He removes 3 ordinary objects. A loaf of fresh bread. A small gardening trowel. A worn walking stick. He places them carefully upon the grass. What do these have in common? The students study them. At first, very little. Then someone notices. They all serve others. The instructor smiles. The baker feeds people. The gardener helps things grow. The walking stick helps weary travelers continue. He gently brushes a crumb from the loaf. A good life is often measured, not by what we gather, but by what we quietly give. The breeze carries the sweet scent of summer flowers across the courtyard. Somewhere above, a robin begins singing. The lesson continues with another gentle walk beyond the town. This time, there is no destination. No assignment. The instructors simply allow everyone to wander slowly along familiar paths. You cross the little stone bridge again. The stream still murmurs over smooth rocks. You pause beside the willow tree where dragonflies hover above the water. Everything feels exactly as it did weeks ago. Yet you feel different. Farther along the road, you pass the old baker delivering warm loaves to the monastery. He smiles as he recognizes the instructors. The elderly monk waves from the garden gate. The gardener at the castle is trimming roses exactly as before. The shepherd guides his sheep across the hillside. The innkeeper sweeps the doorstep of the crossroads inn. Nothing has changed. And somehow, that feels wonderfully comforting. The medieval world continues quietly, whether anyone writes about it or not. History books may remember kings. But the world keeps turning because ordinary people wake before dawn, bake bread, mend fences, plant gardens, repair bridges, comfort neighbors, and welcome strangers. By midday, everyone reaches the grassy hill overlooking the valley. The same hill where you once shared bread and cheese beneath the open sky. Today, lunch is equally simple. Fresh bread, soft cheese, apples, cool spring water. The children eat while watching clouds drift slowly across the blue summer sky. The silver-haired instructor finally speaks. When I was young, the students look surprised. He rarely speaks about himself. I believed greatness meant being remembered. He smiles quietly. I no longer believe that. The breeze rustles through the tall grass. I think it is enough to leave the world a little kinder than we found it. The words settle gently over the hill. No one feels the need to answer. Some lessons are complete the moment they are spoken. The afternoon passes peacefully. Several children gather wildflowers. Others skip stones across the stream. One simply lies upon the grass watching white clouds drift overhead. The instructors do not interrupt. Sometimes learning happens best when nothing at all is being taught. As the sun begins its slow journey toward the western hills, everyone rises for the walk home. The valley glows with warm golden light. Long shadows stretch across fields ready for harvest. Church bells echo softly from distant villages. The silver-haired instructor pauses one last time before the town gates come into view. He smiles at each student. Tomorrow, there is only one lesson remaining. He looks toward the peaceful rooftops ahead. It is not about how to live. He pauses. It is about how you wish to be remembered. By the people whose lives quietly touched your own. Together, you continue walking beneath the gentle evening sky, while swallows circle above the rooftops and another peaceful medieval day slowly comes to its close. The measure of an ordinary life. The evening bells slowly fade across the valley. Their gentle notes drift over the rooftops of the town, across the quiet river, and into the distant fields before disappearing into the soft summer air. The hidden refuge grows peaceful once again. Candles are lit along the familiar stone corridors. The comforting scent of vegetable stew fills the kitchen. Some of the younger children help knead tomorrow's bread while others quietly read beside the library fire. Nothing about the evening feels unusual. And perhaps that is exactly what makes it beautiful. For many months, you imagined that the most important lessons would happen during long journeys or remarkable discoveries. Instead, you have learned that wisdom often arrives while sharing supper, walking familiar roads, or watching sunlight fall across an old stone bridge. After the meal, the silver-haired instructor invites everyone into the library. Tonight there are no books waiting upon the tables. No maps. No exercises. Only the warm glow of candles dancing across shelves that have quietly watched generations of children grow into thoughtful adults. The instructor sits beside the fireplace. The children gather around him. For a while, everyone simply listens to the gentle crackling of the fire. Finally, he asks, "When you are old, what do you hope people will say about you?" The question hangs softly in the room. One student answers, "I hope they remember that I was honest." Another smiles, "I hope they remember my garden." Someone quietly says, "I hope my grandchildren enjoy visiting my home." A young girl whispers, I hope people feel happier after speaking with me. The silver-haired instructor smiles after every answer. They are all wonderful hopes. He leans back comfortably in his chair. When I was younger, I believed people wished to be remembered for great achievements. He chuckles softly. But after many years, I discovered something different. He gazes into the fire. Most people remember kindness far longer than greatness. The room grows wonderfully quiet. You think about everyone you have met. The baker, the innkeeper, the gardener, the monk, the elderly farming couple. None of them will likely appear in Ground Chronicles. Yet each has quietly made the world a gentler place. The instructor reaches beside his chair and picks up a simple clay mug. He turns it slowly in his hands. This mug was made by a potter. He smiles. I do not know his name. But every morning, it faithfully carries warm tea. He places it back upon the table. Not every useful life becomes a famous one. The fire burns gently lower. Outside, the stars begin appearing one by one above the hidden courtyard. The traveling instructor quietly enters the library. He carries a folded piece of parchment. Its edges are worn from years of careful handling. Without a word, he hands it to the silver-haired teacher. The elder smiles knowingly. I wrote this many years ago. He carefully unfolds the parchment. It is not a rule, nor a command. Only a few thoughts collected during many peaceful journeys. His voice remains soft as he reads. Walk slowly enough to notice small kindnesses. Share your bread whenever you can. Listen longer than you speak. Thank those whose work is often overlooked. Leave every place a little better than you found it. And always return home with gratitude. When he finishes reading, he folds the parchment once more. No applause follows. Only thoughtful silence. The words seem to belong naturally beside the crackling fire. The next morning arrives clear and bright. The bronze bell rings beneath a sky washed clean by the cool night air. Breakfast is shared as always. Warm porridge. Fresh apples. Dark bread. Honey gathered from nearby hives. Afterward, the instructors announce one final walk. The entire refuge joins them. Young children. Older students. Teachers. Cooks. Scribes. Everyone. The familiar road winds gently toward the grassy hill overlooking the valley. Along the way, nearly every person you have come to know greets the group. The baker raises a flower-covered hand. The shepherd tips his cap. The monk smiles from the monastery garden. The gardener pauses beside his roses. The innkeeper waves from the crossroads. The elderly farming couple stands beside their gate. One by one, ordinary people quietly acknowledge one another. No great ceremony has been arranged. Life simply continues. Reaching the hilltop, everyone sits together beneath the wide summer sky. The valley stretches peacefully below. Fields ripple beneath the breeze. The little stream glitters in the sunlight. The castle stands quietly upon its hill. Smoke rises gently from village chimneys. The traveling instructor speaks first. When I was young, I believed every road was taking me somewhere. He smiles. Now I know. The roads themselves were the gift. The silver-haired instructor nods. And every person you meet upon them. The children remain wonderfully still. The breeze moves through the grass with a sound almost like gentle waves upon a shore. A skylark sings somewhere high above. Finally, the silver-haired instructor stands. My dear students, He looks across the peaceful landscape. You began these lessons believing this hidden refuge existed to teach secrets. A warm smile spreads across his face. But what have we truly taught you? The answers come quietly. Patience. Observation. Kindness. Gratitude. Listening. Trust. The instructor nods. Exactly. He places one hand upon the old oak walking staff beside him. The world already has enough people who seek power. His eyes brighten kindly. It can always use more people who quietly bring peace. The afternoon passes gently. Some children weave flower crowns. Others collect smooth stones beside the stream. Several simply sit beneath the shade, enjoying the warm summer breeze. No one wishes to hurry home. As the golden light of evening slowly settles across the valley, the instructors gather everyone for the walk back. The town bells begin their familiar evening song. Swallows sweep gracefully across the sky. The scent of fresh bread drifts from the baker's oven once more. Everything feels exactly as it should. Before entering the hidden refuge, the silver-haired instructor gently rests a hand upon your shoulder. You asked me many months ago. He smiles. What kind of life an assassin lives? You nod. He looks toward the peaceful town. I think you know the answer now. You do. Not through stories of danger, nor through tales of adventure, but through the lives of ordinary people. A life built upon hiding, fear, and endless secrecy would always struggle to know the simple joys you have witnessed. A warm kitchen. Neighbors who know your name. Children laughing in the street. A garden patiently tended through the seasons. A place where you can return each evening without pretending to be someone else. The instructor smiles one final time. So perhaps? He looks toward the glowing windows of the refuge. The greatest wisdom is not learning how to live in the shadows. He pauses as the evening bell echoes across the valley. It is learning to step into the light. Together, everyone descends the familiar stone staircase beneath the old storehouse. Candles glow warmly. Supper is waiting. Laughter echoes softly from the dining hall. And as another peaceful medieval evening settles over the hidden refuge, you realize that the richest life was never the one hidden behind secret doors. It was always the ordinary one, shared openly with others, one quiet day at a time. Tomorrow, only one chapter remains, the gentle farewell to your journey through the medieval world, where all the small lessons you've gathered along the way will come together like the final notes of a peaceful lullaby. A peaceful farewell to the medieval world. The dawn of an ordinary life. The evening meal comes to a gentle end. Wooden bowls are carefully washed and placed upon their shelves. The kitchen fire burns lower, filling the hidden refuge with the comforting scent of warm oak and fresh bread that will be ready by morning. One by one, candles are extinguished. The library grows quiet. The long corridors become still. Only the familiar dripping of water somewhere deep within the ancient stone reminds you that time never truly stops. Tonight feels different. Not because anything extraordinary has happened, but because you know your lessons are drawing to their peaceful conclusion. You settle beneath your wool blanket and listen for a moment to the soft breathing of the other students sleeping nearby. Outside, beyond the forgotten storehouse and the sleeping medieval town, the same stars shine above the baker's cottage. Above the crossroads inn. Above the monastery garden. Above the castle walls. Above the little farmhouse where the elderly couple has surely finished another quiet day together. Everyone sleeps beneath the same sky. It is a comforting thought. Before long, the familiar bronze bell welcomes the final morning of your education. Its gentle voice echoes through every corridor exactly as it has since your earliest childhood. You rise naturally. Fold your blanket. Wash your face in cool spring water. Join your friends for breakfast. Warm barley porridge waits upon the long wooden tables. Fresh honey glows like liquid sunlight inside small clay bowls. The baker has sent several loaves before dawn, still carrying the wonderful aroma of the oven. No one rushes. Every smile feels just a little warmer this morning. The younger children laugh quietly together. The cooks hum cheerful tunes while serving breakfast. Even the old stone walls seem somehow brighter beneath the summer light filtering into the courtyard. When everyone has finished eating, the silver-haired instructor stands beneath the great oak tree. The traveling instructor joins him. For several moments, they simply look around at the gathered students. Finally, the elder smiles. When I first met many of you, you could hardly carry a bucket of water without spilling half of it. Gentle laughter fills the courtyard. I remember children who raced through these corridors. Who forgot to return books? Who spoke before listening? He smiles even more warmly. I see none of those children now. The courtyard falls peacefully silent. You have become patient. You have become thoughtful. You have learned to notice beauty where many people never think to look. He pauses. And that is a wonderful beginning. Rather than beginning another lesson, both instructors invite everyone to walk together through every place that has quietly shaped your journey. The forgotten storehouse. The narrow streets. The bustling marketplace. The little bridge. The crossroads inn. The castle gardens. The monastery. The grassy hill overlooking the valley. Not as students. Simply as grateful travelers. The morning passes gently. At the marketplace, the elderly baker recognizes the group immediately. He laughs warmly. So the young walkers have returned. He places several fresh rolls into a basket. No payment today. Learning deserves good bread. The children thank him politely. Nearby, the flower seller waves happily while arranging bright summer blossoms. The blacksmith pauses his work just long enough to offer a cheerful greeting. Nothing has changed. And somehow, that feels exactly right. The group continues toward the little stone bridge. The stream still sings its quiet song beneath the arches. Dragonflies dance above the water. The willow branches sway exactly as they always have. The silver-haired instructor rests one hand upon the bridge. You crossed here many times. He smiles. At first, you only saw the bridge. Then you noticed the stream, the birds, the travelers, the changing seasons. He looks at you kindly. The world became larger because your attention became deeper. You quietly touch the cool stone beneath your hand. The bridge has not changed. You have. The road leads next toward the crossroads inn. The orange cat is sleeping in precisely the same sunny place beside the doorway. The innkeeper laughs as soon as he notices the familiar faces. I thought the road might bring you back. He invites everyone inside. Warm herb tea is shared around the old wooden tables. Fresh oat biscuits rest upon simple plates. Travelers come and go exactly as before. Some stay only a few moments. Others linger beside the fireplace. The innkeeper smiles. The best journeys. He glances toward the open road. Always leave room for another visit. The traveling instructor nods quietly. I could not agree more. By early afternoon, everyone reaches the grassy hill overlooking the valley one final time. Blankets are spread beneath the shade. Simple food is shared. Fresh bread, cheese, apples, honey, cool spring water. No feast could feel more complete. The valley stretches peacefully before you. The castle stands proudly upon its hill. Fields ripple gently beneath the breeze. Church bells echo faintly from the town below. The same peaceful landscape that welcomed you weeks ago now feels almost like an old friend. After lunch, no formal lesson begins. Instead, everyone simply enjoys the afternoon. Some gather wildflowers. Some watch clouds drifting across the sky. Others quietly read beneath the shade of the trees. The instructors do nothing except smile. Sometimes the greatest lesson is allowing yourself to fully appreciate an ordinary day. As the afternoon slowly fades toward evening, the silver-haired instructor walks beside you. You asked many months ago. He smiles. Why it would be difficult to be born into a hidden life. You nod. He looks across the peaceful countryside. Now you have met the people who make this world beautiful. The baker, the gardener, the monk, the shepherd, the innkeeper, the farmer, the carpenter, the children, the mothers and fathers. He pauses. They taught the lesson far better than I ever could. You both stand quietly as the evening breeze moves through the tall grass. The greatest treasure, he says softly, is not becoming someone history remembers. His gentle smile returns. It is becoming someone whose family is always happy to see come home. The words settle deep within your heart. As the golden sun begins sinking beyond the western hills, everyone slowly rises for one final walk back toward the hidden refuge. There, beneath the ancient oak tree where your journey first truly began, one last quiet farewell awaits before this peaceful story finally comes to its gentle end. Good night, dear traveler. The golden evening light stretches across the valley as you begin the familiar walk home. The grassy hill slowly disappears behind you, yet you find yourself looking back one last time. The castle still stands proudly upon its hill. The little stream continues winding through the fields. The crossroads inn waits patiently beside the road, ready to welcome tomorrow's travelers just as it welcomed those of yesterday. Nothing asks to be remembered. Everything simply continues. The path back to the town feels shorter than it once did. Perhaps that is the way with journeys. At the beginning, every road seems long because everything is unfamiliar. By the end, every step feels like walking through the home of an old friend. The swallows glide overhead, darting gracefully through the warm evening air. A gentle breeze carries the scent of wheat nearly ready for harvest. Somewhere beyond the hedgerows, a shepherd whistles softly to his dog as the flock makes its unhurried way toward home. Every living thing seems to know that the day is drawing to a peaceful close. As you pass the little stone bridge for the final time, you pause. The stream murmurs exactly as it did on your very first visit. Its clear water slips around smooth stones without ever hurrying. The willow tree bends gently toward the current. A dragonfly lands for a brief moment upon a reed before lifting effortlessly into the fading light. The silver-haired instructor stops beside you. Do you hear it? You listen. The water. He smiles. Yes. It has been telling the same story every day. You look at him curiously. What story? He rests one weathered hand upon the bridge. Keep moving. Be gentle. And make the places you pass a little more beautiful. Neither of you speaks again. The stream has already said everything else. Soon the familiar rooftops of the town come into view. Smoke curls lazily from stone chimneys. Children play one last game before their parents call them inside for supper. A baker closes his shutters after another successful day. The blacksmith hangs his leather apron upon its peg. The flower seller waters the blossoms that will greet tomorrow's customers. Life quietly prepares to begin again in the morning. You realize that this has been the true heart of your journey. Not secret passages. Not hidden blades. Not whispered missions beneath moonlit skies. Instead, fresh bread cooling on a windowsill. Neighbors greeting one another by name. Gardens patiently cared for through changing seasons. Warm fires on cool evenings. Shared meals. Open doors. Honest work. These are the things that quietly hold the medieval world together. When your group reaches the forgotten storehouse, the heavy wooden door opens with its familiar creak. The stone steps descend into the hidden refuge one last time. The cool air feels comforting. Candles already glow along the corridors. The cooks have prepared one final supper to celebrate the end of the season's lessons. Long wooden tables fill the dining hall. Fresh bread rests inside woven baskets. A hearty vegetable stew simmers gently in large iron pots. Roasted onions, herbs, and mushrooms fill the room with a rich, welcoming aroma. There is laughter tonight. Not loud laughter. Gentle laughter. The kind that comes naturally among people who have spent many peaceful days together. Stories are shared about forgotten lessons. Someone remembers the goose that wandered into the castle pantry. Another laughs about nearly spilling water during the trust exercise beneath the oak tree. Even the instructors smile more often than usual. For a little while, no one is teacher or student. Only companions sharing one final meal. When supper is finished, everyone helps clear the tables. No one is asked. Hands simply reach for bowls, cups, and benches because that is what friends do. The silver-haired instructor waits beneath the great oak tree. The candles surrounding the courtyard flicker softly. Above, the first stars begin appearing through the open roof. He looks at every face gathered before him. My dear friends. He begins quietly. You believed this was a story about an assassin. A few gentle smiles appear. But along the way, we discovered something else. He looks upward through the branches. We discovered that the happiest lives are rarely the loudest. They are often the quietest. The baker rising before dawn. The shepherd watching over his flock. The monk tending his little garden. The innkeeper welcoming tired strangers. The mother singing while preparing supper. The father repairing a broken fence. The child carrying water without being asked. He pauses. History seldom remembers their names. But the people who loved them always did. The courtyard becomes completely still. Even the breeze seems to quiet itself among the leaves. The traveling instructor steps forward. Throughout your journey, he has spoken only when necessary. Now his smile is warm. I have walked many roads. He says softly. I have crossed mountains. I have sailed rivers. I have slept beneath more stars than I could ever count. He glances toward the children. And after all those years, I still believe the finest destination is simply a place where someone is glad to see you return. No one speaks. There is nothing to add. The truth feels complete. The silver-haired instructor reaches into his robe and removes the same little mirror from many days ago. Its polished surface catches the light of the candles. One by one, he allows each student to look into it again. This time, you see the same face. Yet something has changed. The reflection seems calmer, kinder, more patient. Perhaps the mirror has not changed at all. Perhaps you have. The instructor wraps the mirror carefully in its linen cloth. Keep this face, he says with a gentle smile. Never trade it for another. The great oak rustles softly overhead. A cool night breeze slips through the courtyard. Somewhere beyond the hidden refuge, an owl calls across the sleeping countryside. The silver-haired instructor looks toward the stars. So, he says almost in a whisper, our lessons are finished. He bows his head slightly. But your ordinary days are only just beginning. One by one, the students quietly return to their rooms. You remain beneath the oak tree a little longer. The courtyard is peaceful. The candles burn steadily. The old stone walls seem to hold every lesson that has been shared within them. You think once more about the question that began this journey. Why would it have been difficult to be born as a medieval assassin? Now, after walking the roads, sharing bread, meeting gardeners, bakers, monks, innkeepers, shepherds, and farmers, the answer feels wonderfully simple. Because a life lived in constant secrecy would miss so many of the quiet joys that make life truly rich. The warmth of belonging, the comfort of trust, the peace of an honest day's work, the happiness of being known by your neighbors, the gentle welcome of home at the end of every road. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. As you finally make your way to your small room beneath the ancient town, you blow out the last candle beside your bed. Darkness settles gently around you. The wool blanket is warm. The stone walls are cool. Above, the stars continue their slow journey across the medieval sky, just as they have for countless generations. The baker will rise before dawn. The shepherd will lead his flock into the fields. The gardener will water his roses. The innkeeper will open his door. The stream will keep flowing beneath the old bridge. Life will quietly continue. And with that comforting thought, you close your eyes, take one last slow breath of the peaceful medieval night, and allow yourself to drift gently into sleep. Good night, dear traveler. And thank you for walking these quiet roads.